What is up everyone, it's Saber here and welcome to another Naruto What If. If you end up liking the video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can take it back at any time and it really helps me out, and this is my second channel, so if you want some more what ifs, go check out my other channels. And with all of the YouTube formalities out of the way, let's get into it. The 4 prisoners were put in the black cells, and per their orders the guards were to keep a heavy vigilant watch over them. Of course, it was an effort during the trip to the black cells to even get all 4 of the prisoners into their assigned rooms, due to all 4 struggling to get out of the grip of their guards. 1 because he was guilty as sin for his past crimes and killing so many for the fun of it. 1 because he didn't want to be in the black cells for his crimes. The 3rd because he was acting like a spoiled child, spouting out how he was the king of Westeros and would have all their heads on pikes when freed. The 4th one, Cersei of House Lannister, was struggling the most out of all of them, as she was nearly consumed in her madness at being treated in such a manner to her it was unbefitting of a woman such as herself, not just as a Lannister, but as the queen of the 7 kingdoms, to be placed in such a prison. This place was meant for the murderers, the thieves, the rapists, and all the lowest forms of life. King's Landing at offer. She wasn't one of them. She was a queen. Queens can do what they want. They could kill anyone they wanted, take what they wanted, and do whatever they wanted without fear of any form of punishment. So when did the rules regarding queens being immune to such things suddenly change? It's because I'm a Lannister. They are all jealous of the power the Lannisters have in the world, all the gold, all the power, and the strength we possess, thought Cersei bitterly as she was thrown into her cell, and the doors soon shut for who knows how long. If it's all right with you, I wish to speak with my daughter, came the voice of the man known as Tywin Lannister. With all due respect, Lord Tywin, we ask you remove any weapons on your person, and that we inspect your person for anything you might try to hide in order to secretly give the prisoner for a possible escape attempt, said one of the guards with respect and fear. For the Lord of House Lannister, I understand and accept, said Tywin, while 2 guards examined him carefully and one had the man's sword in hand. We will return your sword to your person once you have finished talking to the prisoner, Lord Tywin, said the 3rd guard. Once the examination of Lord Tywin was done again, I understand the reason, said Tywin before the door was opened. And the Lord of House Lannister, you have changed, father. I didn't want to see it, but you have changed. To see you act in such a state is unbefitting of the Lord of House Lannister, whispered Cersei while she saw Tywin frown slightly. You are many things, Cersei, but I never thought being a hypocrite was one of them, commented Tywin with an air of disappointment in his voice. You don't have the right to call me a hypocrite, father, not after what you did, said Cersei angrily. And what exactly did I do, questioned Tywin, though the way he did it made his child even angrier. You bent the knee and submitted to the wolves, the stags, the roses, and a demon behind a mask. You favored your deformed dwarf of a son over me, over your grandson and heir to the Iron Throne. You favored to surrender your pride and the dignity of House Lannister, exclaimed Cersei angrily at her father. Call it what you will, Cersei, but I did what I had to do. Am I proud of myself? No. Did I want to do it? No. It was either go through with this or all of House Lannister would be destroyed. I chose the path that would help ensure our house's survival, said Tywin, with Cersei sneering at him. Excuses? You could have outspent them. You could have hired every sellsword in the 7 kingdoms. You could have bribed well over half the army of House Baratheon and House Tyrell. You could have reminded them of your wrath and fury with the song that made our house feared. Did you know you chose to turn around and bend over to get fucked like a whore in a brothel? Cersei shot back angrily. Outspend? Since when does House Lannister have the funds to outspend our enemies? In this situation, when you have spent quite a bit of gold on yourself or Joffrey, and even if I did go that route, how exactly would House Lannister reclaim the gold it spends on the war? The mines, they are nearly dried up, if not all dried up already. Our house has to seek other means of gaining revenue outside of the gold mines, and our war has made that nearly impossible. As for bribing half the army of our enemies, you give House Lannister too much credit. Like the North, the armies of House Tyrell are loyal to their house and do not bend for anyone, no matter the weighted amount of gold offered. The same with House Baratheon. Betray one of the major houses that took down the Mad King and his son, the brother of the late King Robert Baratheon. Maybe a couple dozen or 100 men would betray Renly, but never in the thousands. Add in the North and their army. We had no chance of winning against them. The only reason we weren't crushed sooner by the North or their Baratheon/Tyrell allies was due to the Iron Islands trying to invade the North, and Robb Stark sent a sizable portion back to defend it. Add and holster Tully's own death, and our forces were given a short reprieve necessary to allow a chance for peace to be considered, explained Tywin while Cersei shook her head. Peace? There can only be peace when your enemy is destroyed and the bloodline that spawned them is wiped out. Those were your words once when I was a little girl, father. You can't even live up to them, stated Cersei, while Tywin sighed. Normally those words would indeed be accurate regarding our enemies, but that was only because our house was never on the receiving end of defeat and total annihilation until now. Showing mercy to an enemy at times can be considered weakness, but not always. This was a senseless war started to make everyone lose and lives were lost on all sides. A senseless war you helped orchestrate with your lies, treachery, and deception, in trying to keep the truth from being revealed, a truth behind the parentage of your 3 children. My grandchildren, the eldest one I am ashamed to even call my own blood because his parents are siblings, twin siblings, exclaimed Tywin at the end with anger now in his voice. The Targaryens did it for well over 1,000 years. Siblings, fucking siblings, bringing incest children into the world. Did you think House Lannister would be any different? Some of our own family members long before you or grandfather were born have done it. I would not be surprised if you are descended from such 2 siblings fucking each other, said Cersei with Tywin's scowl darkening. Luckily, I am not the descendant of such horror. I made sure to check my lineage before we left Lannisport thoroughly out of fear that the act you and Jaime have done was the result of some past act by past family members. As for what you and Jaime have done to House Lannister, it will not be forgiven. The trial will sadly be further proof of that fact, replied Tywin, with Cersei scowling further. Jaime will not be put on trial. You won't allow it. He's your heir despite everything done by the 2 of us. I know you, father. You would give up all the gold of our house to help ensure Jaime lives and becomes the future lord of House Lannister, replied Cersei with a smile on her face. At one point, yes, I would have offered up all the gold we possess. I actually offered up the Mad King half the rights to the mines of Ancasterly Rock if he stopped Jaime from joining the Kingsguard, but he didn't take it. As for Jaime, he won't get out of this like I would have wished. At best, he will have to take the black and become a member of the Night's Watch. While unable to become my heir, at least my son will live, said Tywin, while keeping quiet on the possibility of Jaime demanding a trial by combat. And me, your only daughter, your princess among the lions of House Lannister. What about me? Asked Cersei while Tywin's eyes turned cold. You will stand trial for your crimes, and so will Joffrey for his own. Make no mistake, Cersei, your time as queen is over. You are a disgrace as my daughter and a disgrace to House Lannister. I would not spend even an ounce of gold to find a way to free you from this prison, replied Tywin, while Cersei became fearful and angry at the same time. And Joffrey, asked Cersei while Tywin once again stared down at his chained daughter with cold eyes. He will either be kept in the black cells for the rest of his life or be sent to the wall. I honestly don't know which punishment will be worse for him, answered Tywin while Cersei became angry. You can't. Joffrey is your grandson, your blood. He has the purest of all the blood in House Lannister running through in his veins, protested Cersei, but was backhanded by Tywin. He is a bastard born of incest like the rest of your children. The only difference between Joffrey and his siblings is they didn't do anything horrible to others. I distinctly remember hearing the rumors of him killing a pregnant cat at one point, not to mention many of the small folk in Lannisport have come to me regarding the horrible abuses Joffrey committed against them before Tyrion was put in charge. Speaking of Tyrion, I have decided to give him custody over Tommen and help the boy rise above this biological stain you placed on our house. As for Myrcella, she is in Dorne getting to know her future husband and can help in repairing relations between our houses. Thanks to your younger brother, we may have a good chance of redeeming ourselves over this tragedy, replied Tywin while Cersei spit the blood out of her mouth and glared up at him. I see. So Tyrion is to be your heir, not Jaime. Jaime takes the black, but lives I die for my apparent shame. Joffrey is either a prisoner here or takes the black with his father. All the while the real monster of our house gets to become the future lord of Lannisport and live a life of luxury after we have peace. And you're dead, and you say our house will survive once this happens. Ha! Who are you trying to convince here, father? Me or you? Mocked Cersei with Tywin shaking his head. Unlike you or Joffrey, Tyrion has shown himself to be a competent ruler when put in a position of power and authority. Only recently were my eyes open to this by his means of keeping Lannisport from revolting against House Lannister and by the sage offering me some well-placed words of wisdom on the issue of family, replied Tywin with his daughter sneering at him. And you listen to the demon. The man tells you to let go of the anger and hatred you feel for Tyrion after that abomination you call a son killed your wife. My mother, demanded Cersei with Tywin letting out a breath and sigh. All in one, your mother's death was a tragedy. No one will dispute that. However, I was reminded of the simple fact that naturally shaped children have been responsible for the deaths of their mothers too. While I did hate Tyrion for a time following your mother's death, it was misplaced hatred. She brought Tyrion screaming into the world just as she did with you and Jaime. Either one of you could have killed her when it happened. Like madness of the Targaryens, the gods flip coins regarding the birthing of children and whether or not the children kill their mothers at birth. So no, Cersei, I no longer hate Tyrion for what happened, replied Tywin before he left the room. Wait, father, don't go. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay and help me stop this trial, stop these peace talks, crush our enemies, as only you know how. Set your family free, protested Cersei With Tywin stopping at the door and turned slightly. "The only family I have left are those not in the black cells of King's Landing," said Tywin before the door was shut, and he was handed back his sword while ignoring his daughter's shrieking voice calling out for him to free her. Such a spoiled child. Was he truly that blind not to see what she had become? Walking further down, Tywin ignored the annoying voice of his grandson Joffrey, and continued on toward his son's cell before he surrendered his sword to the guards, and they again checked him for anything hidden. Tywin wouldn't fault them for checking his person, since he would have had made sure his own men did it with guests if they were here. They were all competent men who knew what was required of them and had been trained to do it. "Father, how good of you to visit me. Why the long face? Oh right, you surrendered 2 of your 3 children and 1 grandchild to his enemies for peace. Personally, I don't think it was a good trade, but you always were insightful in the ways of negotiation," said Jaime in a mocking tone. Are you done parading yourself around others and me like a damn fool? Acting like what you have done is not wrong despite the facts stating otherwise to the contrary?" questioned Tywin coldly while he saw Jaime's smile fade now and sigh. "Considering how I was a prisoner of the North, what did you expect?" asked Jaime, with Tywin snorting something far more dignified and worthy of being called a Lannister. "Only I find myself seeing someone unworthy of the titles and names that come with it, and what is worse, the man in question just happens to be my son," exclaimed Tywin angrily at the end, with his voice echoing throughout the room. It made Jaime wince, since it reminded him of a time when he was a boy and Tywin had been angry for other offenses, which usually resulted in Tywin smacking his son around to get the point across. "So you know, or rather accepted the stories told about me and Cersei," said Jaime with a sigh sadly. "Yes, I have accepted it. I didn't want to accept it, not at first. Who would I? My own son, heir to House Lannister, and Casterly Rock, the future Warden of the West, with all the raw talent, the looks and gold laid at his feet once he comes of age. Years of hiring the best for your training, education that money could buy, only for you to become a Kingsguard and forced to forsake his future titles, lands and house, with all the power it entails, forbidden to produce children for life, only for you to break your oath in the most twisted and perverse way possible with your own sister, your twin sister no less, and to provide further proof of this incestuous perversion against House Lannister. You had not 1, not 2, but 3 children born from such an action with Cersei. You not only broke your oath as a Kingsguard twice, but the second time has produced a horror I have the shame of calling a grandson," exclaimed Tywin furiously, with Jaime frowning at that part. "And what of Tommen and Myrcella? Do they not shame you too?" asked Jaime, with Tywin calming himself. "Since you have been a prisoner of the North for some time now, you don't know of the events following your imprisonment. For one, Myrcella is now in Dorne with her future husband, who just so happens to be Prince Dorian's son. Thanks to your brother Tyrion, he felt in the event we lose the war in the West as a whole, that one member of House Lannister would live safely under the protection a marriage like hers provides. Tommen has been treated well and doesn't truly understand the implications of his birth or who his parents are, since no one has told him anything specific. As it stands, Tyrion will no doubt be given guardianship in the near future and hopefully turn the boy into a man worthy of House Lannister," answered Tywin, with Jaime sighing in relief. "At least they are safe. That's good," Jaime whispered to himself. "They are only safe because of your brother, the one Lannister among my children who has not shamed us to the level you and Cersei have done," commented Tywin with a hint of pride in his voice regarding Tyrion. Tywin Lannister praising his deformed son for a dwarf. "I never thought I would live to hear or see the day," said Jaime with a hint of sarcasm. "Much has changed since you have been a prisoner of the North," remarked Tywin, with Jaime nodding clearly. "So why are you here? Come to scold me like a child? Beat me like the time you saw Cersei and I standing naked near each other, and naturally assumed the worst?" asked Jaime, with Tywin scowling at the memory and no doubt believing he had stopped the two from doing what he feared they were about to do. Had Tywin known just how right he was, the man should have beaten the boy harder. "I know you intend to avoid an all-out trial or take the black. You think a trial by combat will save you from being punished," assumed Tywin, while Jaime scowled at how easily his father could read him like a book even after all these years. "From the tone in your voice, I take it you disapprove of my decision. I don't see why I fight. When I come home and become your heir, I find some nice noble girl not even distantly related to House Lannister, fuck her for a while and give you an heir or 2. Maybe I will give you 3 heirs if it makes you feel any better," offered Jaime, with Tywin not looking amused. "Don't choose that option, Jaime. If you choose trial by combat you will lose," replied Tywin, with his tone a mixture of anger and worry. "For his son, I'm one of the best swordsmen in the 7 kingdoms. Granted, I haven't used a sword in a while, but I'm not that rusty. Plus the lack of good food has thinned me a bit. I just need some decent food in time to practice my skills. By the time I face my opponent in a fight, I will be ready and I will win. I'm sure I can best Lord Stark or even Robb Stark easily if given the chance. Who else could they send against me in a fight? Ser Barristan maybe, but even he is starting to get on in his years. Ser Loras will be easy to crush since the Man acts too flamboyant and plays to the crowd. Renly won't dare fight. I thought I saw a woman in armor with him. I can't imagine she would be even considered in terms of fighting against me. Maybe I will get to fight the Hound, but many would question his loyalty given he is a Clegane, countered Jaime confidently. While Tywin looked like he was ready to smack his son hard enough to make the man lose his teeth. You wouldn't be fighting any of them, you would be fighting the sage, replied Tywin with. Jaime. Looking surprised by this, the sage, how do you know, asked Jaime, with Tywin now giving him "are you an idiot" look before sighing. It is the only logical choice to ensure you don't walk away from your crimes. I did not want to believe such a possibility would happen at first, but your sister's ramblings on the way here made me rethink it, answered Tywin with Jaime frowning again. What do you mean, asked Jaime curiously. Cersei's mind has gone into the realm of madness, and it has grown while on the way. Here at times she would mumble to herself on who should or would be killed by her hands, or who would be sent by her to kill those she hated the most. The one she hates the most being your own brother. Tyrion, do you know who she would have asked to kill your brother if I or you were not around to protect him, questioned Tywin with Jaime frowning, since he knew how Cersei hated their brother, but never imagined she would send anyone after Tyrion. Know who, asked Jaime curiously. Ser Gregor Clegane, if he were still alive, answered Tywin with Tyrion going pale in the face. Even now, after so long following his painful death, the mountain still cast a shadow over the world, and many, if not just about everyone in the Seven Kingdoms, knew of the giant man's infamous reputation for destroying everything in his path. If Cersei was willing to unleash the mountain on Tyrion, it just proved just how hateful the woman was toward her own brother, the tallest man in the Seven Kingdoms, against the smallest. Gregor Clegane would kill him within seconds provided Cersei doesn't have Tyrion die a slow, painful death, which sadly would have happened if the opportunity presented itself, thought Jaime, knowing in a fight against the mountain his poor brother didn't stand a chance in the Seven Hells. I see, you understand. Cersei would want to see Tyrion crushed slowly, painfully, and not be afraid to have it happen in public for all to see. She knows such a matchup would be a sure victory for her. The same can be said for you if you go into a trial by combat, and many will want your death to be a sure thing. Who better to make it a sure thing than the sage himself, said Tywin with Jaime sighing. Which means I have to take the black, surmised Jaime with Tywin nodding. And unlike with the Kingsguard, if you do fuck a woman, much less have a child with her, the Night's Watch will take your head, added Tywin with Jaime grimacing. And I like having my head attached to my shoulders, said Jaime, while putting his hand around his neck gently. I will bring up the possibility of you taking the black during the peace talks before the actual trial happens. One less issue to handle later, added Tywin with Jaime nodding. Father, I know my actions regarding Cersei and our actions overall have shamed you along with House Lannister, but I only did what I did out of love. I love Cersei. I know it's the wrong kind of love given our sibling relationship, but it's still something I could not stop myself from feeling. All I can say in regards to this is I'm sorry, I shamed our house. And you, replied Jaime with Tywin sighing. At least you are willing to admit your faults and apologize for them. It's far better than what I could get from your sister and child, remarked Tywin before he left the room to leave his son alone. Red Keep's small council room. It's hard to imagine all of us here in this one room. I'm half expecting someone to bring out an army and kill the rest of us, joked Renly, while Marjorie gave him a small chiding look. To not push it, please, husband. This is no time for jokes. Peace within the Seven Kingdoms is within our grasp. The time for joking can come once this whole mess is behind us, replied Marjorie while she glanced at Naruto's masked face and wished to know what he looked like under it to get his reaction. She had heard about him from her grandmother. The woman had apparently known him since when she was a little girl, and several times later when Olenna had become a sharp-tongued woman visiting the Reach and walking around the gardens to admire nature in all of its splendor. The two had talked many times during those visits, and it was actually because of the sage that Olenna decided to go for the man she wanted over the man her family chose for her. Flashback. You should have seen me back during in my younger years, child. I was a lot like you, stunning in every sense of the word. It was why my family tried to marry me off to the Targaryens. It was all the rage back then to marry into their house. Not surprising given it was the royal one with a chance to sit on the Iron Throne, but when I saw my intended husband I knew he wasn't for me in the slightest. That was around the time when I met the sage. Once I became a woman, I remember trying to seduce him multiple times when he visited the Reach. At first I thought he was some kind of naive idiot who didn't know when a girl was offering herself to him, and was surprised when he turned me down. As it turns out, his heart has long since been silenced when it comes to finding that special woman to love him. Considering how old the man really is when compared to us, it's not that surprising. I'm still young by comparison to his actual age, but that's another story for another time. What matters is what I had recalled from the meeting where the two of us spoke about the pros and cons of arranged marriages. Once I told him about mine to House Targaryens, said Olenna calmly, while sipping some tea in front of her granddaughter. What did you Recall grandmother, asked Marjorie curiously. The sage told me about how arranged marriages are more trouble than they are worth, like the madness that House Targaryen is known for possessing. It's all a flip of a coin. Your marriage could be wonderful or it can be cruel. It all depends on the man you marry and if he's a good man, just as you are a devoted wife. One such example of an arranged marriage being good is the union between House Stark and House Tully, despite both the husband and wife originally not meant to be with the other, replied Olenna, with Marjorie frowning at her. But didn't Ned Stark have a bastard which he later legitimized, asked Marjorie, while Olenna nodding yes with Catelyn Stark's support. No less few women in this world would allow their husbands to not only take in their bastard child into the house to raise, but actually assist in legitimizing the child too. The marriage foundation between Ned and Catelyn will be the thing of legend in the years to come, but the opposite of that coin is in the dreadful marriage of Robert Baratheon and Cersei Lannister, and we both know how that turned out, replied Olenna, with Marjorie shuddering at the thought. I still can't believe the queen did that with her brother, or tried to kill her husband and succeeded no less without a hint of regret, said Marjorie, with Olenna scoffing. She was hardly worthy of being called a queen. Still, it's not that big of a surprise. At the very least, the killing of her husband part was a foreseeable event, though I think no one really believed Cersei would do it, at least not directly. Cersei is the kind of woman who takes what she wants, hurts who she wants, and will destroy whatever she can't have, but everyone else does have in life. It's just the way she is, and her dreadful son Joffrey has inherited such a belief. No doubt such things were nurtured by Cersei herself in order to get Joffrey to behave that way, said Olenna, while sighing and thanking the gods her own granddaughter didn't marry Joffrey. What else did the sage talk about with you regarding marriages, asked Marjorie, with Olenna looking at her with an amused smile. Aside from the fact they are tools for those seeking political power, nothing much. He told me that if there was a man out there that I loved but was out of my reach, I should find a way to make him reachable and to ensure that he never wanted to stray to another woman's bed so long as both of us were alive. Heeding his advice on the matter, I went to your grandfather's room one night after coming back from my embroidery lesson and somehow gotten lost. How embarrassing of me. The next day your grandfather couldn't make it out of his bed in the morning, and when he did make it down those steps many hours later, it was only to find me to get what I gave him the previous night. The very idea of some other man having me in their bed doing what I did to them instead of him sent the man into a frenzy. He wanted to marry me to ensure no one else had the honor of getting what I gave him that night. Like I told you earlier, dear, I was good, very good. It will take some work with Renly given his tastes, but you will no doubt be better, and Loras will be around to discreetly help the two of you, replied Olenna, while Marjorie blushed at the slight crudeness of her words. But what if Renly doesn't become king of the Seven Kingdoms? Won't my marriage to Renly be an empty investment on our part, asked Marjorie, while Olenna thought it over in her head. Not necessarily, child. Even if Renly doesn't become king and you queen like we had initially planned, the children you will have together still have a very good chance of marrying into the next royal line. Ned Stark appoints to sit on the Iron Throne. Do not look at this as a sign of defeat, my child. See it as a means to prepare for a future victory for us, answered Olenna, while she smiled at the woman in front of her. End of flashback. There will be no treachery here. This war has gone on long enough, and I know everyone here wishes for peace, said Ned, while everyone nodded in agreement. I agree with Ned Stark. This war was pointless and caused by lies and deception created by various individuals. Sadly, I must confess that the majority of them still alive are those from my own house, added Tywin, since there was no point in denying it, namely Cersei and Jaime Lannister, said Robb Stark with a hint of anger in his voice, since those two had done much to keep their affair a secret, pushing his little brother Bran out of a tower window being one of them. There is plenty of blame to go around. Those involved in their act of treachery, namely Lord Baelish and Grand Maester Pycelle, are dead, so we will skip over them since the dead paid their debts with their lives. The question now is, what can all parties agree to be acceptable for peace, said Naruto, while ignoring the lazy yet clearly observant look one Oberyn Martell was giving everyone in the room. Cersei dead. For one, she conspired with others to kill my brother successfully, I might add, said Renly, while glancing at Tywin with the man sighing. That depends on the outcome of the trial. We can't just execute her on that crime alone. Even if we know of her guilt regarding it, she has many other crimes to answer for, said Ned, while knowing all of Cersei's actions would have to be exposed. What about Jaime Lannister's crimes are even greater than hers, replied Robb, while his mother nodded in agreement, and it was clear the Tully woman very angry with the man. Lord Tywin, what did your son have to say on the issue when visiting him in the Black Cells, asked Naruto, since he knew the man would speak to his son after so long and to speak about things regarding his impending trial. He will take the Black and become a member of the Night's Watch. After talking with him about the various outcomes surrounding his trial, this was the best choice for him, said Tywin, with Renly, Robb, and Catelyn not liking it since they wanted the man to be punished so the Kingslayer gets away with his crimes against my brother. And the Starks asked Renly accusingly, with many in the room nodding in agreement to his words about how they felt Jaime Lannister taking the Black was unfair. Being a member of the Night's Watch is not something to be taken lightly. It is an honor for some to serve and a harsh punishment for others. Jaime Lannister will have to keep his oaths as a member of the Night's Watch, or he will be executed for breaking them. No exceptions, said Ned. While Renly looked angrily at him. I would think you would want him executed, Lord Regent. The wall is too good for the Kingslayer, remarked Renly before a cold chill suddenly swept through the room and everyone found themselves staring at Naruto, who was the one who was making it. Enough with this Kingslayer bullshit. I'm sick and tired of people always referring to Jaime Lannister as the Kingslayer, said Naruto suddenly. While many in the room were surprised by his sudden action, with all due respect, great sage, the man killed his king. Granted, he was a mad king, but as king nonetheless, said Brienne of Tarth, while Naruto just looked more upset. Did anyone here even ask him why he killed the Mad King at that moment in time? Did it ever occur to any of you that perhaps Jaime killed the Mad King for a good reason? A damn good reason, asked Naruto, while everyone in the room was surprised. What reason could Jaime Lannister possibly have for breaking his oath? Asked Robb, with Naruto sighing. For one, the Mad King demanded Jaime kill his own father when Tywin betrayed him after marching the army within King's Landing. Second, the Mad King ordered wildfire hidden underneath the entire city be set ablaze to cover the entire city in green fire, so there was nothing left for Robert to have when he personally came here. Imagine if Jaime hadn't killed the man. Every person in King's Landing burning in agony from wildfire, from lord to small folk, every man, woman and child being burned to ash, babies never being allowed to grow up, ancient history and buildings burned to nothingness. Jaime did the only thing possible to stop the orders from being carried out. He broke his oath, but the man did it to save an entire city full of people who here wouldn't have done the same if they were in Jaime's position. What matters more, the oath to the king or the lives of the people he intended to burn out of spite for his enemies? Challenged Naruto, with many in the room going pale and green in the face. It's true, I'm afraid I was nearby overhearing the Mad King's rant about burning King's Landing to the ground and leaving Robert Baratheon nothing to rule over. Jaime killed him and those in the room about to carry out the order, confirmed Varys, while those here in the room were shocked to know this was the truth behind the Mad King's death. I didn't know this fact. Why didn't Jaime tell me? Asked Tywin, while Naruto let out a chuckle. Why would he tell you what happened? The man was already despised for what he did. Why make it any more of an issue? Robert was going to be crowned king and was about to marry Cersei. Jaime probably felt it was best to let people believe what they wanted to about him so they wouldn't take it out on her later simply for being related, said Naruto, with many in the room frowning. It must have made him feel bitter inside, always being called Kingslayer to his face and behind his back, commented Brienne offhand. I hope we aren't speaking about this as some form of excuse to pardon Jaime Lannister for his crimes, questioned Catelyn in a cold tone. No, but I think regarding the act of killing the Mad King all those years ago, with the reason behind it, we can all agree the man should be pardoned for this one crime and the reason behind his decision be known. I think the people of King's Landing should know the truth behind why he killed the Mad King, offered Naruto, with a slow nod from the others. Just for the killing of the Mad King, stated Catelyn, since she wasn't going to let what the man did to her family go in regards to them not being brought to light. I think we can agree to that for the sake of peace, asked Naruto, with everyone, even Tywin Lannister, were nodding in agreement. Good, we will discuss this sensitive part about Jaime Lannister at a later time. Now comes the issue regarding who made mistakes and what needs to be done to bring about peace for all sides, said Ned, with Tywin steadying himself for this part. Financial compensation would be nice, remarked Edmure, before his uncle Blackfish, who was standing behind his nephew, smacked him in the back of the head. Forgive my nephew, he's an idiot, remarked Blackfish, while giving the younger man a glare. This war was based off lies and deception. To heal, we must use the truth and have the people in this very room who have done wrong in this matter admitting they were in fact wrong to do what they did, said Naruto, with many looking unable to say anything except Tyrion. Oh, for the love of the seven, am I the only one here with the balls to speak up and tell others what I have done wrong? When called out on them, asked Tyrion in annoyance behind his mask. Naruto merely smirked. Leave it to Tyrion to break the icy tension with the finesse of a sledgehammer, Tyrion commented Tywin in a warning tone, with Tyrion shaking his head. Father, I'm sorry for this, but we both know the only way to get things started here is if we all contributed. I'll go first for our house, namely the sending one Armory Lorch and his army to River Run. This was done by orders of my father to harass the people there in order to draw out Ned Stark after I was considered a hostage by his wife Catelyn Stark. The only reason it didn't work was because Ned Stark was recently injured prior to that event, said Tyrion, while motioning the others around him at the table to continue after him. If Lord Tyrion can say as much, I can do the same on my end. I jumped to conclusions regarding Tyrion's involvement in my son's near death. I judged him before I even knew the truth and believed lies from those I thought could be trusted. I was wrong to let my desire to punish those who hurt my child blind me from making sound judgment, said Catelyn while she glanced apologetically at Ned for setting things in motion. I am also to blame as well. I fled with Ser Loras when Lord Stark wanted to handle the issue with Cersei Joffrey and recently becoming Lord Regent of the Seven Kingdoms. Had I stayed with my men, I could have helped Lord Stark, and not stain the honor of my house by doing what many would feel was cowardly, said Renly while knowing his crime was arguably the least offensive crime here, it was still shameful. See, was that so bad, asked Naruto with the group around him agreeing it was nice to get such actions off their chest. So now that confessing our own lack of intelligence at key moments is done, or can we continue, asked Tyrion with Naruto nodding. Agreed. What would it take for all parties here to agree to peace and bring an end to this war, asked Naruto, knowing everyone had a price, and so the long hard negotiations began. For the sake of peace. Black cells. Sometime later Naruto entered Cersei's cell. He could have used Kamui, but unexpected appearances would be counterproductive at this point, and Naruto didn't want to surprise the guards with his visit. They of course bowed respectfully and asked him to remove all possible weapons from his person before being searched. It was a long pain in the ass process, but it was worth it. So the demon comes to pay me a visit. What do you want? A chance to fuck the queen before she faces further disgrace and public humiliation, questioned Cersei angrily. Don't flatter yourself, Cersei. I wouldn't fuck you to possess the ability to instantly kill all the White Walkers beyond the wall. I came here to talk, nothing more, replied Naruto while sitting down on a wooden bench opposite of the chained woman. Talk about what? About how you have won, how my own father, the once great and feared Tywin Lannister, bent the knee to his enemies, how he sacrificed his eldest son, his only daughter and grandson for the sake of your peace, questioned Cersei angrily. Your father did what needed to be done to save his house, not that you care about your house or anyone else for that matter. We both know your so-called love for your family is a lie. The only thing you have ever loved beyond yourself is being in the seat of power or in the position of power, commented Naruto with Cersei's anger not leaving her in the slightest. And what did my father give to make peace with our enemies, asked Cersei while she saw Naruto leaning back against the wall lazily. Oh, Tywin didn't do any negotiating during the peace talks. He left all that up to Tyrion, replied Naruto with Cersei looking even angrier. No doubt my monster of a brother sold out House Lannister with a smile on his face, said Cersei with her madness growing. On the contrary, he saved it. Aside from paying each house a decent sum of gold and dealing with some reduced revenue from future trade agreements, House Lannister will do just fine. Sure, a sizable portion of the army Lorch commanded will have to go to the wall or face execution for their crimes during the war, but it's to be expected since they all served under the man. It's more of a minor issue, remarked Naruto with Cersei's anger not leaving in the slightest. He didn't feel it was necessary to tell her about Renly becoming Shireen Baratheon's new guardian, and both would live here in King's Landing. Renly of course would retake his position on the small council as Master of Law, with his wife Marjorie taking the part as his unofficial advisor to help become a voice of the small folk. Ser Loras would be made an enforcer of sorts to the position, and many who knew of the relationship the man had with Renly concluded it was a way for the two to be together in secret. Ser Davos was to be honored for his years of loyalty and navy skills by being made master of ships, so he could not only train the Royal Navy to learn a few tricks but to also to make sure he was near Shireen. The old man adored the girl as if she was his own, and Shireen saw the man almost in a grandfatherly capacity, if not the old yet wise uncle who would sometimes tell her stories before bedtime. Ser Davos's son Mathos would also be coming to King's Landing and be given a key position within the Royal Navy. Of course, Naruto would have to make sure the boy's devotion and loyalty to the Lord of Light were firmly quashed prior to giving him anything important. Tyrion had been the most fun to surprise during the peace talks, since the short man didn't really expect anything to be given to him for his efforts. At most, Tyrion seemed content to simply return to Lannisport with his father, learn to rule there, and spend time with his nephew Tommen to further nurture the boy's desire to gain knowledge. The boy would be a great maester one day if allowed to grow up and played his cards right, maybe even a grand maester. But Naruto felt that while such a path was all well and good, the idea of having Tyrion be made the new master of coin was better, and have him be on the small council would further raise his standing within his own house. The look on Tyrion's face was priceless. Flashback during the peace talks. I'm sorry, what? Asked Tyrion, as he wasn't sure his ears had heard Naruto's words and was sure the others in the room were just as startled. What? I think you should be made the new master of coin. I myself wasn't meant to be the master of coin the entire time I was here. I was meant to be temporary until Someone could do it on a full-time basis. Who better to be the new master of coin for the crown than a Lannister, answered Naruto. With Tyrion looked shocked by this, and so did Tywin. Are you sure this is wise? No offense to Lord Tyrion, but having his house be here in a key position of power within King's Landing and controlling the finances of the crown is very dangerous, said Edmure, while his uncle muttered idiot under his breath. The whole point of these peace talks is to have peace. If we are to mend the wounds and scars of distrust caused this war, we need to move past such things. Renly is going to be the master of law. Ser Davos Seaworth, who was loyal to Stannis, will be made master of ships, and Tyrion here will be made master of coin to help keep the crown out of debt, said Naruto, with Tyrion still looking unsure. It's true, I know a great deal about wealth, but only in the ways of spending it, protested Tyrion, while he looked at his father for help. But the man was clearly interested in the idea of his son being made master of coin. All the more reason for you to become master of coin. You know what to spend, how to spend, where to spend, and what value something is before you spend money on it. Not only that, but you strike me as someone who can make smart business investments and check to make sure said businesses are legitimate, said Naruto, with Tyrion thinking it over in his head for a time. I accept the position, but in the event something does happen to my father, I ask to be given the choice of leaving the small council to become the Warden of the West, said Tyrion, with Naruto nodding. I don't think anyone will say no to that. Everyone knows being Warden of the West is a major responsibility, just like being Warden of the North, South, and East. The job of being the Master of Coin will not be an easy one, but I have no doubt it will help you develop the management skills needed to run the West when the day comes to step into the position. Do you approve of this, Lord Tywin, said Naruto, with Tywin nodding. Jaime can no longer be my heir. I accept that. Tyrion is the only one left who I can entrust the future of House Lannister to after my death. Being master of coin on the small council is a great honor, one that Lord Baelish, as I have been told, wasted in terms of bleeding the crown dry and without regret on his end. I trust my son will prove his worth as a Lannister and keep the crown out of debt, regardless of just who the future king or queen of Westeros is in the distant future, said Tywin, with Naruto nodding at his words, and then looked at Ned, who also nodded in full agreement. The wounds of this war were starting to heal nicely. End of flashback. So the monster drains the resources of House Lannister and its muscle. I knew he would be the ruin of our house. Now we will no longer be feared. We will be seen as weak and easy for attacking in the future, remarked Cersei, with Naruto shaking his head no, because all the houses involved in this war agreed they are forbidden from doing so, and agreed they are forbidden to attack each other unless one house decides to commit some horrible crime against another. Then the offending house will have to pay heavily for it, replied Naruto, knowing it was the best kind of deterrent for peace in this case, as if they will keep their word. People have wanted our house destroyed for years. Our rivals have always been jealous of our greatness, hated us for our superior strength and the wealth we gained over the years, whispered Cersei, with Naruto scoffing. And you did nothing to show them otherwise. The death of Jon Arryn, the attempted murder of Bran Stark, the murder of King Robert to hide your infidelity with your twin brother, the attempted coup against Ned Stark when Robert had made him regent upon his death. I can go on if you want, offered Naruto, with Cersei glaring at him with all her hatred. I am the queen. No one else can be queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I will not have my position taken from me. I will not have someone like you, Ned Stark, the Baratheons, the Tyrells, or anyone else take what is mine. I am the queen. The queen, do you know what that means, you three-eyed freak? I am this world's one true ruler, and I will have you and all of your followers bow to me in submission before my time in this world is done, exclaimed Cersei, with the madness worthy of the late Mad King shining in her eyes. Difficult to do from a cell like this, commented Naruto, with Cersei grinning at him. You would be surprised what I can do. Perhaps if you had sided with House Lannister, I could have shown you just what it is that makes me a prize worth having. I still can if you are interested, replied Cersei, with the madness mixing with lust. Thanks, but I think I will pass on the offer. I would not touch you for all the gold in the Seven Kingdoms, said Naruto before he began to walk away. Don't you turn your back on me. I am the queen. I am your better. You will obey me or suffer my wrath, exclaimed Cersei, but was ignored by Naruto the entire time. Keep an eye on her and anyone else who visits Cersei, especially if they aren't family, said Naruto, with the guards nodding. King's Landing Gardens. Naruto watched Arya Stark glaring at him while in her fighting stance used by Syrio, and now herself off to the side. Syrio was watching with pride. Today's session with the girl involved the one thing many had problems dealing with whenever they faced a stronger, faster, and far more skilled opponent: controlling a short temper. Don't look at me like that, Arya. It gives you away to your enemies on how to bait you into making a move they can expect to counter before taking your head off, said Naruto as he saw the girl shift her stance and growl like a wolf at him. How can I keep my temper in check when I have been struck in almost every possible place by you in this spar, including my ass, countered Arya while she tried to hit him again, but he easily countered her strike. Then the second third spun around and once more hit the girl right in the ass too. get yelp out of her pain breeds character. Besides, this lesson is to hone your temper and keep it under control. When provoked, you anger easily, whether it's a verbal or physical attack. You want to retaliate immediately, and damn the consequences of your actions. You need to think about when to strike, how to strike, and on your terms. By letting your temper get the better of you when provoked, you move on the terms set by the enemy, and thus you allow yourself to be defeated before even making your move. Lectured Sirio from the sidelines and saw the girl growl louder but stayed her hand from lashing out so the girl can learn. Good thought, Naruto with a grin, and made a come and get me hand motion. Arya did that, but her attacks were less temper driven, and it was clear she was more focused on landing a hit on him with a bit more finesse. For the most part, the girl was keeping her temper in check, but as the spar progressed with Arya's sword versus Naruto's wooden one, he had grown by sprouting it from the ground right in front of her. No less, the girl's temper started to overpower her self-control. Eventually Naruto had smacked Arya's sword out of her hand, then hit her shoulder, leg, and finally stabbed her in the gut to make the young Stark to fall over. At this rate, I will never beat you, exclaimed Arya in frustration while Naruto smirked. It's not about beating me in a spar, young she-wolf. It's about beating others out there who are not me in all my spars and time training my other students. None of them have ever bested me. They kept on trying and trying, but never once was I defeated. I have far too many years of experience under my belt to be defeated by you or anyone else here, said Naruto with Arya still scowling at him, but it lessened slightly. So no one has bested you, Sir Barristan Sirio? Asked Arya with Naruto letting out a chuckle. Not once, and truth be told I hit them a lot harder in our spars than I did you, replied Naruto with amusement in his voice. And how is my daughter progressing? Asked Ned before coming into view to see his youngest daughter once more training to fight. Progressing nicely, a new set of bruises to overlap the old ones. Where's Sansa? Asked Naruto curiously, since he hadn't seen the young Stark girl for some time. She is currently bonding with Lady Marjorie and Lady Olenna elsewhere, with Brienne of Tarth watching over them. There is little that interests my oldest daughter these days in King's Landing, replied Ned, with sadness in his voice. Well, with any luck, Lady Olenna can help get Sansa's mood to brighten. Ever since she learned the truth about Joffrey's parentage and seeing his cruel nature, things have been a real eye-opener for her, though how much is unknown, said Naruto. Since the girl had spent her days being a bit reclusive, and what time wasn't spent at court was spent in the Tower of the Hand with her family. She also doesn't have many friends here. Lady friends, I mean Lady Marjorie and her will get along fine, remarked Arya, since she met the three mentioned women around the time her sister did. Marjorie was all right, but reminded Arya of Sansa, except the woman clearly had a sharp mind to match her beauty. Arya also knew that Marjorie knew it too. Olenna Tyrell was the same way as Marjorie. The woman was old like old Nan, but with the sharp tongue and mind that Marjorie clearly inherited from her, a woman who could see a person for who they were before even having a conversation with them and acted on it accordingly. It was clear to Arya if you challenged this woman, she would use every resource at her disposal to make sure you were either dead or wish to the seven you were when it was over. Despite that, Arya respected Olenna for being such a strong woman for her age and telling people what she thinks instead of what they want. Brienne of Tarth was arguably her favorite woman among the three. She was very strong physically and knew how to fight. Brienne clearly knew how to wield a sword and could overpower any man around in a fight, maybe even the Hound if the two got into it. Arya had asked Brienne how she convinced her father to let her fight. Brienne had told the she-wolf girl about how she would beat up the snobbish boys who all dreamed of being knights and did not consider her to be a beautiful maiden. Among others, had done the trick. Her father had said if his daughter was going to go out and beat up boys, she was damn well going to learn how to do it properly, rather than fighting like a brawling ogre. Brienne was one of those strong warrior women Arya could admire and wish to be like when she grew up. Like the women of House Mormont, the men were no pushovers, but the women of the house didn't act like the maidens of other houses where men did all the work and the men did all the hard labor. Like Brienne of Tarth, House Mormont women pulled their own weight, and if you crossed one, you better have a huge army under your command, because they were known to fight off just that many men in a battle. One Mormont, whether they be man or woman, was worth 10 men from any other place in the Seven Kingdoms, or at least that was what people said about them. Perhaps sometime at the Reach will do Sansa some good. After this I will talk to Lady Olenna in the near future to see if it's possible, commented Ned, knowing Sansa might gain a bit of a necessary backbone under the guiding wise hand that was the Queen of Thorns herself. I agree, it will be good for Sansa, said Naruto, while he skillfully blocked the sneak attack done by Arya without even looking, and kept blocking each new attack despite the girl's attempts to land one. It was actually kind of amusing. Essos outside the walls of Yunkai, the Second Sons, questioned Daenerys, with Yora nodding yes. Khaleesi, the Second Sons, is a mercenary army consisting of roughly 2,000 well-armed men plus their horses. They have a standing business arrangement with Yunkai to defend them for a large sum of gold, and the use of their large selection of slaves within its walls whenever they are around to defend it. The mercenary army consists mostly of cutthroats, sells words and bastards, all with a desire to spill blood for the highest bidder. In this case Yunkai is the highest bidder, answered Yura, with Daenerys frowning. Arrange a meeting with the leader. I want to speak with him to see if he would consider fighting for me, commanded Daenerys, knowing such men could be bought if the price was higher than the enemy. Marrow of Bravos, the Titan's bastard, commented Yura. What is he more of? A Titan or a bastard, asked Daenerys, with Yura shrugging. Hard to say, Khaleesi. A bit of both, I would wager, said Yura. All the same, arrange for the meeting. I want to see my enemy face to face before he is officially my enemy, commanded Daenerys, with Yura nodding. You really think the leader of the Second Sons will wish to speak with you, my lady, asked Missandei curiously. If the Second Sons are as infamous as Yura has just told me, they will. After all, such a leader like the Titan's bastard can't afford to lose to a little girl, especially if he is being paid a heavy sum of gold by wise masters of Yunkai, said Daenerys, with Missandei nodding. And if the leader of the Second Sons tries anything, asked Naruto curiously, since he had a feeling this asshole would. I leave the outcome on how to deal with the leader up to you, answered Daenerys, while she sensed the smile on Naruto's face. If only he would show it from beyond the mask. Part of her thought he might be disfigured or deformed behind it, so she dared not ask if he could reveal his face, but then she thought that maybe he was handsome under it and did not want an army of women and whore hounding him at every turn. She had thought to ask Yura if anyone had seen his face, but Daenerys was sure the answer was no, or had heard only unsubstantiated rumors of those who did. Still, a woman like herself could dream. Essos. Days later, Naruto sensed the leader of the Second Sons arriving to their camp. Before the guards sent word and reported a total of 3 members of the mercenary army now heading toward the tent. It was clear to Naruto that the leader, Marrow, who was called the Titan's bastard, brought 2 of his most trusted officers with him, no doubt to get a feel of the place and most likely intimidate Daenerys with the show of power. Those fools didn't know what true power looked like and would probably piss themselves if they did. Idiots. This is the mother of dragons. I swear I fucked you in a bar once, commented Marrow once he entered the tent and Yura had given the introduction. Speak like that again and you'll never fuck another woman in a bar for the rest of your natural life, commented Naruto, with Marrow along with his captains Prendel Nages and Dario Naharis looking at him. And a jester is here too. Do you dance around for your queen's amusement like a little monkey to make people laugh and beg for money? I would give you some of mine, but I don't let anything not a woman suck my cock once I pay them, commented Prendel, with his fellow captains laughing, only to find himself forced to his knees when a chakra chain from Naruto stabbed him in the knee and wrapped tightly around the limb. Considering you are one on your knees, I think you know more about sucking a man's cock more than I do, commented Naruto coldly, and enjoyed the cry of pain the man let out from the chakra chain, squeezing the leg so tightly the others could almost feel the man's pain. Bastard, exclaimed Prendel, before another chain shot out of Naruto and was an inch away from his face, hovering there like a serpent ready to strike. Says one of the 3 actual bastards in the room, said Naruto while not moving from his cushioned seat. Your servant has no right to attack one of my men, said Marrow, while knowing he could not draw his sword, knowing it would be unwise given they were surrounded on all sides at the moment. He's not my servant, and you were insulting the very instant you spoke to me with such disrespect. I am well within my right to order your deaths here and now, before feeding your corpses to my dragons once they have been properly cooked, replied Daenerys, with Marrow narrowing his eyes at her. And Naruto, release him, commanded Marrow, while Naruto retracted his one chakra chain aimed at the idiot's head, but kept the one wrapped around the leg. That's all you're going to get from me. Think of this as a means to keep you from saying or doing anything stupid in the presence of the mother of dragons. Every time you are disrespectful to Daenerys, I will squeeze his leg. I will squeeze and squeeze and squeeze the leg with the chain until the pressure causes the leg to literally explode. So mind your tongue when in her presence, or mine, stated Naruto coldly. Why, I didn't mind hers when she licked my crotch in the bar. Hell, she licked my ass like she was born. Do it, remarked Marrow, and heard his fellow captain cry out in pain. When the chain tightened considerably, even if I don't take off the limb, he will walk with a limp out of here and lose all blood to his leg. If I don't destroy the limb now, it will be useless later, and your captain will be useless to you. Do not test me, said Naruto angrily at Marrow. Marrow, please, I want to keep walking, pleaded Prendel, while trying to move the chains enough to give his leg some breathing room to let the blood flow into it. Fine, you there, slave girl, bring me some wine, commanded Marrow to Missandei, who did not move. We have no slaves here, said Daenerys, while Marrow didn't look impressed. You'll all be slaves after the battle unless I save you. Here's my deal for you, mother of dragons. Take off your clothes and come sit on my lap. If you do a good enough job in getting me off when we fuck, I might give you my second sons, said Marrow with a grin, while Naruto narrowed his 3 eyes at him and tightened the chain even tighter around Prendel, to the point where the man was on both his knees crying, give me your second sons, and you just might not have you. Gelded here on the spot by my army, countered Daenerys coldly. A woman like you can't win against us, said Mero, while Daenerys knew that wasn't true. Ser Jorah, how many men fight for the Second Sons? Asked Daenerys calmly. Roughly 2,000 men, your grace, answered Jorah immediately. And how many men are under my command? Asked Daenerys, while still looking Mero in the eye. Well over 10,000 men with 3 dragons and 1 sage, with the power to slice through just as many men with a swing of a sword, answered Jorah, while Mero sneered at him and then at Daenerys. I'm a young girl new to the ways of war, but perhaps a seasoned captain like yourself can explain how you propose to defeat me, asked Daenerys, with Mero not looking the least bit intimidated. A shame, it would have made things easier if he was an idiot. Then again, Mero probably still was an idiot, but more of blindly arrogant, one who didn't understand the reality of the truth sitting right in front of him. After all, it was not every day a bastard and the lead captain of a mercenary army lost to a woman. I hope the old man is better with a sword than he is with a lie. You have 8,000 unsullied and your 3 dragons are not strong enough to face so many in battle, replied Daario, while Daenerys looked somewhat impressed. You're very young to be a captain, remarked Daenerys, while Daario smirked. He's not a captain, he's a lieutenant, countered Mero while glaring at the woman. Even if your numbers regarding my army are right, you must admit the odds are in my favor, replied Daenerys, with Mero still looking arrogant on the issue. The Second Sons have faced worse odds and won, said Mero confidently. More like the Second Sons have faced worse odds and run. Do not flatter yourself, Mero, you are no more threatening than your cock, replied Naruto, with Mero sneering at him. And how would you know anything about my cock, questioned Mero angrily. The ladies in brothels around Essos talk to each other a lot. They weren't impressed with you the first time you went to see them, and they weren't the last time you fucked one of them, commented Naruto, with Mero's fists clenching angrily. You could save yourself the indignity of losing to a woman and instead fight for me, offered Daenerys, knowing if Mero wouldn't agree his subordinates might and she could use the additional troops. We've taken the slavers' gold, we fight for Yunkai, said Mero with his mind already made up. I could easily pay you with just as much gold and more riches when it is over, offered Daenerys, and had to lean away when the man got bold and trying to sniff her hair. Naruto shot a chakra chain out like a whip and deep cut into Mero's face. With any luck it would get infected and kill the man in a slow, agonizing manner. Since hurting your subordinates doesn't deter you from being an ass, I will have to lash out toward your person to get the message across, threatened Naruto, with Mero snarling at him while holding his bloodied cheek. Our contract is our bond. If we break our bond, no one will hire the Second Sons again. It would be bad for business, said Prendel, despite the pain he was in, with the chain on his leg slightly lessening in its grip. Fight for me, and you will have castles, land, and all the gold you desire, said Daenerys, knowing the only way to counter the wealth of her enemy in this case was to have even greater wealth to give to army of her enemy. Show me your cunt, I want to see if it's worth fighting for, and possibly fucking in the future, replied Mero while staring at Daenerys with lust in his eyes, only for Prendel Daario to be hit hard by a sudden gust of wind that shot them out of the tent violently while the chain on Prendel had been removed at the last second. I have had enough of their shit, said Naruto after using his wind jutsu to send those 3 out of the tent and stepped outside to face the 3 morons. As expected, the 3 got up from the ground after some considerable effort and moved to attack Naruto in the hopes of showing their superiority. What they got was a major ass kicking as Naruto dodged a punch struck with an elbow and broke 2 of Mero's ribs. He moved to Prendel, who was unable to move as fast due to his leg and shattered said leg with a single strike. Daario tried to use his blades by throwing one to distract and used the other in hand to get in close. Unfortunately for Daario anyway, the thrown weapon went through Naruto like he wasn't even there, and seconds later the mercenary found himself on the ground and disarmed with his second knife in his throat. You have my terms, and as you can clearly see, this is what awaits you should you try to fight back. Now get out of my camp in my sight, commanded Daenerys while she watched the whole thing. Naruto stood back to let Daario slowly rise from the ground while the other 2 moved their injured bodies to their horses. Mero was clearly angry at being bested with just 1 hit. Prendel was trying not to cry out in pain over his destroyed leg. Daario was actually looking at Daenerys and considering her offer to join what was clearly going to be the winning side. Fuck your terms, I'm going to kill him. Maybe if you beg for forgiveness once your army is crushed while I'm fucking you, I might let you live as my personal whore, or I might just share you with the others. Whore of dragons, exclaimed Mero before he rode off with the other 2. You should have just killed them. Without those 3 the Second Sons would just turn on each other in the Yunkai if we played our cards right, said Naruto while Daenerys watched the 2 captains and 1 lieutenant ride away. No, it would be better to do it when in their own camp where they feel safe and cannot be harmed. Sneak in tonight, kill Mero first and cut off his cock he loves to boast about so much, commanded Daenerys coldly with Naruto smirking underneath his mask. I'm starting to like this woman, thought Naruto in amusement at how nasty this young future ruler could be when push came to shove regarding those who disrespected her time skip in the Red Keep. The throne room that governed the Seven Kingdoms was prepared for the trial of Amory Lorch, Cersei Lannister, Jaime Lannister and Joffrey Waters for their many crimes, all which were committed before, during, and after the late King Robert Baratheon's rule, into the time of Lord Regent Ned Stark's time governing the Seven Kingdoms, while unavoidable in getting out Joffrey's true parentage, being that one born of incest, wasn't something Tywin wanted to be revealed. But given how Jaime was going to admit it, the issue was moot and his son was going to wall after this was over. As things stood, the three judges for this trial consisted of the Lord Regent Ned Stark, the sage Uzumaki Naruto, and surprisingly Prince Oberyn Martell from Dorne. The people from court were all sitting, of course. Bench chairs were brought in and every single person meant to be there had arrived. Some were whispering loudly about what was about to happen, others were waiting patiently for the proceedings to start, and others were looking anxious to see how this trial would play out. Some immediately believed that Jaime and Lorch would try to get out of this by trial by combat. Others suspected the Queen would try to justify her actions somehow with Robert's own infidelity and couldn't stand him to the point of being desperate to end him as a form of punishment. Not that what she did was a reasonable excuse, but rather her reason behind everything. When the doors to the throne room opened, everyone looked to see a small group of the City Watch and Kingsguard march into the room with the four accused. Jaime had been kept clean with a bath, a shave, and of course clean clothing. While not Lannister-worthy clothing, it was still decent and kept the man's dignity to an extent. Amory Lorch was a disgusting man even without his armor, and cleaned up for this trial. You could tell by the look in his eyes that Lorch was clearly a man who did not regret his actions and even enjoyed it. In fact, the man was more angry over the fact Tywin Lannister had not tried to get him out of this and was in fact going to let his enemies do as they pleased. Cersei Lannister walked forward with her head held high. She was given a tight form-fitting dress that showed off her beauty, yet dark in color like that of an evil entity and vile criminal, all wrapped up in one. Strangely enough, she had requested such a dress, as she wanted to wear something that made others fear her even when it should be the other way around. Her eyes flashed with rage, hatred and madness, all rolled up into a single entity pulsing within the woman's soul. A cruel darkness burned within the woman's eyes as she walked to the spot where she and the others were to stand to face judgment. She had a look of defiance and the belief these people were not her equals, not her betters, not her peers, and they certainly were not worthy of judging her for past actions she enjoyed doing. Joffrey was wearing clothing normally worn by the small folk. Much to his whining and protesting of the garments given to him, he demanded something regal worthy of his station as crown prince and future king of the Seven Kingdoms. The guards told the brat that he would either wear what was given to him for the trial or they would simply march him into the throne room naked for all to see. Joffrey didn't believe them at first, stating that his grandfather wouldn't allow it, and the men threatening him with such humiliation would be punished, only for the guards to tell Joffrey that the threat they made to the boy to walk him into the throne room naked was sanctioned by Tywin himself. He had no love for the bastard, and neither did the guards, since they had to deal with the brat's complaints from day one of being put in the black cells, so it didn't bother them in the slightest to have this waste of a life be humiliated if he refused the shit-stained rags, as Joffrey had called them, for clothing, and waited to see if he would accept them. The boy had some form of a brain, and not wanting to call their bluff wore them with a glare on his face the entire time. Of course, Joffrey always sported a glare and acted like the world belonged to him. To Naruto, it reminded him of Sasuke being a broody emo jerk all over again when they were kids. This trial will now come to order, commanded Ned Stark, while seeing everyone go quiet, and a hush fell over the room with everyone seated, while the four accused were kept standing. Amory Lorch, Jaime Lannister, Cersei Lannister and Joffrey Waters, you have all been charged with crimes against the realm. The charges are as stated: regicide, conspiracy to commit regicide, murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, assault of a child, pillaging farmlands, the raiding of farmlands, the murdering of the small folk in these farmlands, treason, infidelity, breaking oaths, and committing incest with another family member, said Naruto, before organizing each offense on those who committed them. How do you plead? asked Ned sternly. I plead not guilty, said Lorch, while planning to defend himself in a trial by combat later on when proof of his crimes were brought to light and he could no longer defend himself in this court. Not guilty, replied Cersei sternly, while trying to burn a hole into Naruto's masked face with her angry eyes filled with madness. Not guilty. A prince and future king such as myself can commit no crimes against the peasants of the world, declared Joffrey in his usually arrogant and angry tone. Guilty, my lords, replied Jaime after a few seconds, and earning him gasps from the crowd and his fellow accused before everyone began talking at once quite loudly. Jaime, what are you doing? demanded Cersei in surprise, while the man sighed. Silence, all of you. Jaime Lannister, are you admitting and confessing to this court that you are guilty of the crimes stated against you? asked Ned Stark, while Jaime nodded. I am guilty of attempted murder of Bran Stark, breaking my oath as a Kingsguard In never being with a woman, namely my twin sister Cersei, and having 3 children as a result. As such, I don't intend to drag my family name through the mud when evidence of my crimes will only be brought to light and shame it further. My father, Lord Tywin Lannister, always stressed the importance of family and the family name living on long after we are dead. I wish to save my house further embarrassment in this and plead guilty to what I have done. In addition, I intend to take the black and serve as a member of the Night's Watch to remove the stain that I have made on House Lannister, while hoping to restore some of mine in the process, said Jaime, while sensing his father, who was with the others behind him, giving a nod of approval, and knew he was acting like a Lannister. Should I see Sir Jaime Lannister, as per your words and my authority as Lord Regent of the 7 Kingdoms, you are hereby being placed back into the Black Cells for a time, until it is safe to transport you to the Wall in the North. Know that should you try to escape or try to run during your trip to the Wall to take the Black, you will be a wanted man, and any who take you in will become an enemy of every house throughout Westeros. No mercy will be granted should that happen, declared Ned Stark, with Jaime nodding before he was escorted away by some of the guards. What is he doing? He should have denied the charges. There was no proof of our crimes they can bring against us that we cannot disprove, and yet he openly confesses and thus makes me guilty of our time together, thought Cersei, with her mind almost going numb from the betrayal by Jaime admitting what he did with her. Do either of you 3 wish to confess to your crimes? Asked Naruto, while seeing the 3 remaining accused glaring at him. I think we should take their silence as a no, remarked Oberyn, since the angry looks the long-haired sage was getting clearly spoke volumes. Then we should continue the trial and bring proof of these 3 committing the crimes stated against the realm, said Ned, while seeing Joffrey was ready to explode with anger and say things without realizing what he was saying due to his own arrogance. And sure enough, Joffrey didn't disappoint. This trial is a farce. I am supposed to be the king. The Iron Throne is mine by right. You stole it from me, Ned Stark. I won't stand for it, exclaimed Joffrey angrily, with his short temper being used against him without even knowing it. You have no claim to the Iron Throne, boy, not one drop of blood from your body is of Baratheon ancestry. You are not Robert Baratheon's son, stated Ned coldly, with Joffrey snarling at him. I demand a different set of judges. Each of you are enemies of House Lannister. Each of you has a grudge against us for being born or associated with it, said Cersei, with Naruto looking amused despite his mask hiding his face. Why? So you can bribe or seduce the judges chosen to take our place, so you can get away with being punished for your crimes. Do you really believe yourself to be well beyond the judgment of others, of the laws laid down by gods and men? Questioned Naruto, while Cersei glared at him. Of course I am, you 3-eyed masked twit. I am the queen. It doesn't matter what I did in the past, because I am the queen of this kingdom. I own it, not you, not Ned Stark, not House Baratheon. Me, I own this kingdom. It is mine. All of it is mine. I have the power to see it burn to the ground at my leisure, said Cersei, with cold madness in her voice and eyes, making people whispered about it. At least everyone knows just how fucked up she really is in the head, thought Naruto, while analyzing Cersei's actions during that speech, and her sheer confidence was clearly waiting for something to happen. You think I will just stand by and let myself be judged by a barbarian from the north, a masked 3-eyed demon, and a so-called prince from Dorne with more bastards under his belt than my late pig of a husband? You are sadly mistaken. I will not allow this farce to continue, nor the life of my son be judged by the filthy peasants in this room, unworthy of breathing the same air as him. You are all going to die here, and I am going to relish the sight of everyone in this room dying in a bloody heap on the ground, replied Cersei, with a cruel smile on her face, while many in the room gasped and looked horrified. No one will come to your aid here, Cersei Lannister. The crimes you have committed are too high for any sellsword or assassin to consider being employed by you, replied Ned Stark, while Oberyn glanced around the room looking for anything out of the ordinary that would say it's a trap before the bloodshed could start. You would be surprised what I am willing to offer when it comes to my freedom, said Cersei, like she had them right where she wanted them, with a smirk on her face. And so she waited and waited and waited and waited some more, only for nothing to happen. I know all about your willingness to offer anything for you and your son to escape this trial with us, dead Cersei. Normally the faceless men from Bravos you tried to hire to kill everyone here would take the contract, but there is a rule in place to stop them from taking the job, replied Naruto, when Cersei saw her assassins weren't going to appear and do what she hired them to do. And what rule is that, great sage? Asked Oberyn curiously. It basically says never raise your hand or blade against a master teacher of the faceless men, namely me, said Naruto, while seeing Cersei's eyes go wide in shock. Flashback. Naruto's office mirror hours ago. I see, so she hired you and a squad of faceless men to kill everyone in the Red Keep except herself, Joffrey, Jaime, and even Lorch, remarked Naruto, with his back turned to the assassin kneeling behind him. Yes, normally this one would take such a contract with what she promised if this one and others similar to this one took the job. However, you are one of the judges, and as such we cannot take it. In addition, you have the favor of the many-faced god for all the lives you have taken over the years in disguise and created new ones with your powers to go against an ally of the many-faced god would be unwise. This one and the others will not take the contract but will act as if we have in order to keep Cersei from talking to others. This one hopes this decision pleases you, replied the assassin with long red hair and calm smooth voice. It does please me, thank you, Jaqen H'ghar. Inform your brothers and sisters within your group here to leave King's Landing immediately and head back to Bravos. Your debt to me for making sure you didn't go to the wall has been paid in full, replied Naruto as he turned to stare at the kneeling man, who humbly nodded and left via the shadows of the room. This one appreciates your generosity, great sage. As always, it is an honor to be in the presence of a true master and a herald of the many-faced god, said Jaqen H'ghar before he was gone from sight. End of flashback. Cersei looked at him in shock and horror. Her plan to kill everyone in here except those she wanted alive had been denied yet again, and for what? Because her assassins had an unknown connection to the demon himself. The Faceless Men were some of the most efficient, if not the efficient, assassins in all the Seven Kingdoms, but they were super religious as they were expensive to buy for a service. The one she had commissioned had been offered a vast quantity of gold that was roughly the size of a small mountain, titles and lordships, from here to the Stormlands, the Reach, and the river on. Once she had an army ready to march on their lands to take them from those barbaric allies of the wolves further north. She was so filled with rage at seeing her plan fail that Cersei was starting to physically shake from the emotion to be unable to see everyone here be killed in a way almost similar to how her father did away with another house of lions years ago had failed. They would have songs and stories about this, the Red Trial. They would have called it, oh yes, her enemies butchered by faceless men, blood staining the walls, the floors, the chairs, and even the ceiling. No one who scorned her would be spared, not the Starks, Tullus, Baratheons, Tyrells, and definitely not the Prince of House Martell sitting in his chair next to the sage. Not even Tyrion or her own father Tywin Lannister would be spared. The wrath of a Lannister woman scorned only now. Such revenge, such stories and songs would never be achieved because of this one masked person sitting in front of her. This one person changed the Game of Thrones by merely existing, merely living. Without the sage, Ned Stark would have been kept in the dark. Without the sage, Ned Stark would have dead already, his family soon joining him. The North would have been crippled, her house would be unmatched in strength, and her father would have never found out the truth about his grandchildren being born between herself and Jaime. Why did the sage have to exist to live? Surprised you shouldn't be, considering how long I have lived. I was part of the group many years ago and served loyally during that time. I taught quite a few students in the arts they use now. I'm actually somewhat of a legend to them. They actually consider it a sin to mark me down for assassination. Don't feel bad though, Cersei. If it wasn't for me being here, they would have taken the contract like you hoped. They would have killed almost everyone here, including your little brother Tyrion, and even your father Tywin Lannister himself, said Naruto to further explain himself, while Cersei looked ready to shoot fire from her eyes if such a thing were even possible. Behind Cersei, her father was scowling something fierce and sending a very angry look at his own daughter. You will pay for this. You will not stop me from having my revenge, stated Cersei, while Naruto looked at her with a hint of amusement. Revenge for what? Exposing your lies, treachery, deceit, and your immoral acts aimed at killing just about everyone around you. Go on and on about being a queen and how you deserve to be the only queen of the Seven Kingdoms, but what good is a queen if all she rules over are the corpses? Questioned Naruto with Cersei's rage not leaving her in the slightest. I deserve it. I had to put up with a pig of a king. I had the unfortunate luck of calling my husband. I had to endure the humiliation of being in the shadow of a dead wolf woman he loved and waged his personal war for. Long after she died, I had to live every day knowing my husband had an army of bastards with countless whores and wenches he fucked right here in the Red Keep. The only man I ever loved and deserved my love in all things was my brother Jaime, but even now he has betrayed me, his sister and lover. Because of you I have nothing. Because of you I am seen as the monster of my house, not Tyrion, not the imp of House Lannister. Because of you my son is seen by all as an evil that was spawned by me from my time being fucked by my own brother. I have lost everything in life that matters to me because of you, stated Cersei, while not even caring how she just admitted to her infidelity and the incest relationship with Jaime. Your crimes are your own, Cersei. You helped conspire to kill Jon Arryn. You helped in conspiring and successfully killing King Robert Baratheon, defying his final wishes and naming me regent and protector of the realm. You schemed to take the throne by force, put your bastard son on the throne as king, and did everything in your power to hide all of the evidence of your crimes to avoid punishment, not to mention your latest attempt to kill almost everyone here by hiring assassins. As for your son Joffrey, from what Tywin and Tyrion Lannister have told us, he has caused quite a bit of harm to the small folk in Lannisport, replied Ned, while Cersei's glare went to him. Kings and queens are immune to the judgment of others. You have no right under any law made by gods or men to punish me or my son, said Cersei confidently with anger mixed with arrogance. I'm surprised you believe yourself beyond the reach of laws, Lady Cersei, considering if things were in reverse you would be pushing for our deaths and no doubt deny us all a trial. Are you actually saying the laws of gods and men do not apply to you but to all of us? Questioned Oberyn curiously. I am the queen, I have no equal, no peers, I am the law, I am a goddess and I am your true master in life, replied Cersei with the madness in her eyes, blazing with a fire not seen since the Mad King. She has clearly lost her mind, whispered Oberyn to the other two. Agreed, this trial has gone on long enough, whispered Naruto while Ned nodded. Cersei Lannister, through your own admittance here in front of everyone in this room, we have concluded from your own words and even actions that your mind is clearly lost. You have gone mad. However, it does not excuse you from your crimes because you were in control of your madness, and as such makes your actions even more heinous. It is the decision of the three of us that you are guilty of your crimes against various noble houses, the crown, and the realm. We have concluded you are to be sentenced to death as punishment for committing such actions, said Ned Stark while he saw Cersei nearly jump from her standing position, if not for the guards nearby to grab her and hold the woman in place. You have no right. I am the queen. You are a mere regent, a mere shadow to my greatness and authority. Do you hear me, Lord Stark? A shadow, yelled Cersei while being dragged away in front of everyone now watching in shock. How dare you do that to my mother? I will have your head on a pike for this, yelled Joffrey, who had been letting his mother speak this entire time in the belief she could get them both out of this, and seeing her being dragged away after the attempt failed set him off. Your mother brought this on herself, just as you have brought this on yourself for the crimes you have committed against the small folk. My only regret leading up to this point is I should have beaten you within an inch of your life after the attempted murder of Arya Stark. In fact, I am more than content to finish you off right now, and no one here would lift a finger or speak a word of protest in seeing you head removed from your body, said Naruto before standing up in a very intimidating manner. The sudden appearance of Kusanagi further made him look all the more scary. You don't scare me. I am the future king. I am your better. I am you, exclaimed Joffrey before he was stabbed in the chest with Naruto's sword. You are just like your mother, full of hate, full of arrogance. You don't care who you hurt so long as you can see them being hurt. You don't care about others, only yourself. You, Joffrey Waters, are a greedy little shit of a man who has no feelings of regret for his past actions and sins inflicted on the people living. Is too good for the likes of you. As such, I hereby carry out the order of your immediate death. Goodbye, said Naruto before channeling chakra into the sword so potent it obliterated Joffrey's body right there on the spot. It was as if he never existed. Anything you would like to say, Amory Lorch? Asked Naruto before he turned his attention to the scared pig of a man now pissing himself at seeing what just happened. Wait, I will take the black. I will become a member of the Night's Watch, exclaimed Lorch fearfully, since he knew this man was going to kill him and felt it necessary to plead for his life. And have you run, become a deserter, flee to Essos? I know you, Amory Lorch. You would flee the moment the opportunity made itself known. You enjoy causing pain and suffering to others almost as much as Greater Clegane did when he was alive. The two of you were practically joined at the hip in causing untold death and destruction upon others unable to defend themselves. You have raped women, killed children, and laughed while doing it. The wall is too good for you. Every second you live in this world is an insult to those innocent lives who died at your hands, said Naruto before he took the man's head clean off. Well, that was mildly entertaining, remarked Prince Oberyn while Naruto stared at the beheaded form of Lorch. It wasn't meant to be entertaining, Prince Oberyn. It was meant to bring about justice, and I delivered it to all parties who wanted this to be put to rest, said Naruto in a cold tone. While the people around him were silent, no one dared challenge him on the issue. Who in their right mind would Essos Yunkai? It is done, asked Daenerys when Naruto entered her tent sometime in the night, stained in blood, and the massive sword of his strapped on his back. The Second Sons are no more, with their leader Mero and his loyal officers dead. They all turned on each other most violently. It didn't hurt that I might have influenced their more aggressive tendencies for spilling blood with my powers to further cause them to lash out, replied Naruto with Daenerys nodding. I'm sure the wise masters of Yunkai were not too happy about that when they saw the Second Sons expressing their internal conflict for new leadership, commented Daenerys, knowing the mercenary group had parked near the walls of the city. I'm sure they would if they were still alive, replied Naruto calmly. You killed them all? asked Daenerys in surprise. Most of them, yes, it was easy to do since they were distracted by the fighting outside of their walls, with the Second Sons basically killing each other. Not all of the wise masters are heartless enslavers, so I felt you could deal with them after marching into the city and taking control, replied Naruto with Daenerys nodding. Depending on what I see, I might allow them to hold some form of power to run Yunkai in my stead, provided the practice of slavery here doesn't rise up again, said Daenerys with Naruto nodding. I spoke to the remaining wise masters briefly and they agreed to surrender Yunkai to you tomorrow. The city's doors will open in the morning. Congratulations, Daenerys Targaryen, the city of Yunkai is now yours. And so are all the people within it, replied Naruto, with Daenerys smiling at him. Before he left, things went better than expected, commented Missandei, while Daenerys nodded in full agreement. That and more, the sage has done much for us since offering his power to our cause. I also know he has done the same to those who once fought against my house years ago, before I was even born. Still, I understand why they did, and will show them no ill will unless they deserve it, replied Daenerys, while wondering how she should reward the sage for doing this. When the time comes to reward him, what will you give the sage worthy of his actions in helping you claim the Iron Throne, asked Missandei curiously, while Daenerys could only wonder what. Indeed, I will find a way to repay the sage for helping me. I don't know how I will do it, but I will repay him, I swear it, answered Daenerys with conviction in her voice. King's Landing. Tywin Lannister was walking through the gardens surrounding one of the areas near the Red Keep. His son Tyrion was currently getting situated as the new master of coin and requested the help of sellsword Bronn and his squire Podrick Payne assist him in his new position. Walking beside the elderly Lannister was the sage himself, as the two had been walking and talking about recent events in King's Landing, more specifically the events pertaining to the trial, and the swift ending that occurred with Naruto bring it to an end. It is nice to have made official peace with the various houses, commented Naruto, with Tywin nodding. I agree, a war should not be fought based on one's beliefs for fighting being that of lies and deception. When I originally fought against the North, I did it under the pretense my family was in the right and had been wronged by the Starks, just as the North no doubt did when they marched their army against mine, said Tywin as he looked around and saw the gardens here were as beautiful as he. Remember, I agree, a warrior is at his most dangerous when fighting with conviction and belief of being right on his side. It is one of the reasons the North won every battle against you, said Naruto, with Tywin nodding since he suspected as much. I am just glad the issue regarding the king in the North and preventing the North itself seceding from the Seven Kingdoms was resolved thanks to the combined efforts of yourself, Ned Stark, and my son Tyrion. You have prevented others from thinking they should leave it as well, replied Tywin with a hint of pride in his voice. It would have made problems if they did secede and others following them. No central force to control each kingdom, with King's Landing being just a small kingdom at best and just a city ready to be attacked by one of the others at worst. Each kingdom made from the secession would war against each other, alliances would be made, old hatreds would be revived. Eventually, the wars would have gotten so violent, so brutal, it would have consumed the world as we know, and allies would soon turn on allies when being one no longer held value. It would have been a bloodbath, epic proportions. No one on any warring side would win in the end, said Naruto, with Tywin grimacing at the image he was picturing from this. Something that Littlefinger would have exploited immensely if he were still alive, said Tywin with disdain for the late Baelish. Of course he would. The man would easily buy and sell information to give to any side of a war, so long as he benefits long after it's over. Each side would pay him whatever he wished if it gave them an edge in the war. I imagine he would have done the same to you and House Stark if I didn't kill him after his betrayal of Ned Stark during Cersei's grab for power, replied Naruto, with Tywin nodding and frowning at the mention of his daughter. I never expected her to go mad. She is a Lannister. We don't have the madness within us. All my life I have tried to stress the importance of family and securing the survival of our house for generations to come, to ensure House Lannister had a future long after members like myself, Jaime and Tyrion, were dead. I have come to realize that Jaime has never quite understood this due to being my eldest son and thought his future was secure by his own childish means. As for Cersei, she has been spoiled by me since the time she was born and believes that gold mixed with fear is the way to rule, replied Tywin sadly, while shaking his head at such thing. I won't deny gold has its uses, but only if spent responsibly. Ruling through fear is the way of a tyrant, and one that can be short-lived, especially if the people as a whole were to rise up in the end and had the backing of outside parties offering a better life to the one they were suffering from. Fear only works when there is nothing strong enough to oppose it. The Mad King found that out the hard way. Many people were sick and tired of living in fear of Aerys Targaryen and thus fought to end his time ruling in such a way, said Naruto, with Tywin nodding. Yes, I had the unfortunate displeasure of being his hand for a time. It took every bit of my cunning and intellectual skill to not be charged with treason. The man went through hands like they were a vast commodity. One of the reasons I think he didn't try to do me in like the others was because House Lannister controlled the gold mines in the west and they provided much of his kingdom, with finances no doubt part of him feared having to deal with a financial crisis of sorts if my house suddenly stopped producing gold to the kingdom, said Tywin, since the war with Robert required additional funding and thus needed House Lannister to provide it. That and killing you would have no doubt set Jaime off in trying to kill him for it, said Naruto, with Tywin nodding and looking thoughtful at the same time. I still can't believe the reason why Jaime did what he did. I always assumed it was for some arrogant reason or another, that because he was a Lannister my house could buy him a way out and continue to be what he was without fear of punishment. I just wish he had told me, remarked Tywin, while Naruto sighed. This time, as I mentioned in the small council room, Jaime didn't say anything because it would have made things worse for everyone, namely your family, and Cersei was in line to marry Robert, so why make a possibly debatable issue over it if the truth came to light even before everyone learned the truth? Ned Stark wanted him punished. Many of the honorable lords who fought against Mad King wanted him punished. Imagine the debate and possible conflict caused by the reason behind his actions coming to light. He also knew that people would still hate him for killing the king, but it was easy to take, and in a way it was his own private joke, a rather cruel one to be sure, and slightly aimed at himself, but a private inside joke nonetheless. I'm sure there were times he wanted to tell them the truth, or he thought if they only knew why. In his head, sadly, his silence also proved to cause a great deal of resentment toward others as well as himself. He probably believed people would let the whole Kingslayer business go after many years of loyal service to Robert, replied Naruto, with Tywin sighing again. At least now the truth is out on why he killed the Mad King. The truth does help to open the minds of the ignorant, remarked Tywin, with Naruto nodding. That is, does. Will you be staying for your daughter's execution? I promise you it will be painless. I will even offer you the chance to avoid a public execution by ending her life in a silent fashion in her sleep if you want, said Naruto while whispering the last part. Thank you, but no, I must see this through to the end. Cersei is no longer a Lannister in my eyes, not anymore. She is a shell, a shadow of what it means to be a member of my house. I am duty bound to see that the stain on it caused by her has been removed permanently now that Joffrey is dead, answered Tywin firmly, while Naruto nodded in understanding. It would be hard for Tywin Lannister to see his child be executed regardless of what he said about the issue, but Naruto wouldn't hold it against him. Doing so would just be petty and stupid. Castle Black Lord Commander's office. I never thought I would see you here, Sage. It's not like you said, Lord Commander Jeor Mormont gruffly, while seeing the masked man sitting in the chair across from him. I did not expect to be here and stepping on your toes, Lord Commander. I have a great deal of respect for the Night's Watch and what they do, which is why I need you to keep an open mind on what I need to do in the near future to protect the realm of men, replied Naruto, with Jeor Mormont narrowing his eyes at him. An open mind to what exactly? From the way you are suggesting your time up here in the north and beyond the wall, I am not going to like what you say, commented Jeor, with Naruto nodding. No, you won't. As you are well aware, the wildlings are getting more ambitious in trying to get over the wall. In fact, some have successfully got around the Night's Watch due to the lack of numbers a while back, something that is slowly being corrected by this point, to be sure. However, the wildlings are not the main issue regarding the existence of the Night's Watch, or the wall for that matter. We both know the White Walkers are on the move, replied Naruto, with Jeor frowning further at him. I won't deny or confirm that statement. The fact you are here means you believe they are on the move toward the wall, said Jeor, with Naruto nodding. They have been busy these last 1,000 years waiting for the realm of men they hate with a passion to grow weak and divided amongst themselves. That time would be now. They intend to use the large number of wildlings beyond the wall to build their army, or at the very least, make their current army of the undead grow larger. Surely by now you have heard of the new king beyond the wall has arisen, replied Naruto, with Jeor nodding. Since the few wildlings his men did capture did reveal as much they can try and fail, the wall prevents them from attacking the rest of the world, and the Night's Watch makes sure they don't try to get through it in other ways, said Jeor confidently. The wall is weakening, you know it, and I know it. I'm actually here to strengthen the wall before I travel further north, countered Naruto, with Jeor narrowing his eyes again. What are you planning to do further north, asked Jeor, while Naruto sighed, knowing the man from House Mormont wasn't going to like it. I plan to speak to Mance Rayder about what is happening on his side of the wall. I plan to help him and the wildlings relocate somewhere south, answered Naruto, with Jeor's eyes widening before they narrowed with fury. You intend to allow those animals to live south past the wall to raid, pillage, plunder, and rape the land, if not the people already living there, demanded Jeor angrily. Well, when you put it like that, said Naruto sarcastically in front of the angry Lord Commander, only for the man to stand up, grab his sword Longclaw, unsheath his sword, and swing his blade at Naruto's neck in the hopes it would remove the masked man's head from the rest of the body. Of course, Naruto had no intention of letting that happen as he struck the side of his hand out and stopped the sword with ease, determined to kill this man. Jeor tried again and again and again at different angles, with each strike blocked by the blonde's hand. Traitor, you betray the realms, exclaimed Jeor while trying to kill the masked man in front of him. Enough, exclaimed Naruto before he blocked the sword strike one more time before knocking the blade out of Jeor's hand, kicked the man in the knee, grabbed him by the throat, and slammed his body onto the desk that shook violently upon impact yet did not break. Go ahead, kill me. I have no fear of dying for the Night's Watch, and the same can be said of my brothers, said Jeor, while living up to his house's reputation of being strong even in the face of defeat or death. I don't want to Kill you, Lord Commander. I just need your cooperation on this issue, said Naruto, with Chiyor struggling against him. Never, the wildlings will destroy everything in their path if they get past the wall, gasped Chiyor before Naruto surprisingly released him and took a step back. And the White Walkers won't. The White Walkers are going to turn the wildlings you hate so much, who you have been fighting for so long, against you, either by using Mance to march his army here to weaken you, or by killing the wildlings themselves before they become part of his army. At least I am using the only plan available to keep the White Walkers from claiming them for themselves and saving innocent lives, replied Naruto, with Chiyor eyeing him carefully. The wildlings are hardly innocent, countered Chiyor, while Naruto reluctantly nodded. True, a good chunk of them are evil, cannibalistic, and should be killed, but what about the innocent women and children living there, those who just want to live? Do you even know how many wildlings there are beyond the wall, living beyond the wall, ready to march on the wall, questioned Naruto, with Chiyor shaking his head. No, we never counted. We never had a need to count them, mostly because we have been killing them since the wall came up, answered Chiyor, while Naruto sighed. Well, I have been keeping track of them, Chiyor, and for some time too. Right now Mance Raider currently has over 100,000 fighting men under his command, all from different clans scattered up until recently and fighting each other. He's brought them all together for a single purpose: to get them over the wall and to live a life where they won't freeze to death, only to become undead servants of the White Walkers. That's what he promised them if they follow him, replied Naruto, with Chiyor cursing under his breath. And you intend to help him keep his promise, accused Chiyor, with Naruto nodding. I have a spot in mind. I actually talked this over with the house running the place. I had in mind for them. The lord in question was a bit put off at first, but after explaining the situation to him and a few others in King's Landing, they reluctantly, mind you, agreed it was for the best, said Naruto, with Chiyor frowning. I heard Ned Stark became Lord Regent of the Seven Kingdoms after King Robert died. I find it hard to believe an honorable man such as him would ever approve of this, of your intended actions beyond the wall, commented Chiyor, with Naruto nodding. Oh, he didn't nod at first anyway, like you. Ned protested my idea and almost drew his own sword on me. Almost. The man can be so hot-tempered when you push him in just the right way. In any case, I told Ned what I know, and the best choice for all sides to truly be happy. Not all the wildlings will make it past the wall, just the vast majority, and most of them will be women and children, who are generally harmless. I would think a man such as you would not wish innocent women and children to die in the cold and become the undead servants of the White Walkers, even if they are wildlings, countered Naruto, with Chiyor closing his eyes and finding the explanation given was difficult to swallow but not impossible. And you can guarantee the wildlings won't pose a threat to the realm if brought over the wall to the location you have in mind, asked Chiyor, with Naruto nodding. I can. Besides, the location itself is a little run down, so they will be spending their time sprucing the place up for a long while. Give them a chance to change, and I'm sure the rest of the realm will be watching them too, replied Naruto, with Chiyor breathing in and out while trying to keep calm. Not easy when you have the temper of a mean bear like your house, Sigil. What about the more dangerous wildlings, the ones who will not change, the ones that will hurt others with their newfound freedom, asked Chiyor, while Naruto's eyes now narrowed dangerously. Who said they were coming with the others? I have the ability to sense the emotions of other people, Chiyor. I can tell who is honest and who is guilty of sin. I can sense who will change and who will stay the same. Those who are the latter will either die by my hands when I broker this deal to Mance Raider, or stay beyond the wall to freeze to death and become undead servants of the White Walkers, fitting punishment for them. Am I right? replied Naruto, with Chiyor nodding. All right, I accept your answer and reason. If Ned Stark and the other High Lords of the Seven Kingdoms supports your decision, I will agree to this. But know that any wildling who betrays this gift and spills blood will be on your hands, Sage warned Chiyor, while Naruto nodding. I know, Chiyor, make no mistake, they will be watched by me long after this happens. You can't change someone overnight, much less a group, and I'm sure many who will change will be resistant to it, at least at first, but it is progress, and unless we make progress we are just standing still waiting for our enemies to run us through, replied Naruto, with the Lord Commander nodding. You are right, go on. I'll have to report what you are doing to my brothers. Many of them will not approve. You might have to talk with them about this after you do whatever it is you plan on doing to get them over the wall, said Chiyor, with Naruto smirking. Won't that be a fun conversation, mumbled Naruto before he walked out of the room, and Chiyor sighed heavily before he leaned against his desk. By the gods, he needed a drink. Beyond the wall, Mance Raider's encampment. Hours later, Mance Raider was in his tent thinking, planning heavily on how to get over the wall. It was easy enough with a few good, brave, if only slightly suicidal men willing to climb the wall and avoid the Night's Watch. As a former member of the Brotherhood, he knew how they thought, acted, and reacted to threats from this side of the north. He had seen how the wildlings acted, tried to survive out here, and it pulled at his heart in a strange sort of way. They only acted like this, most of them anyway, to survive the harshness of the cold and the cruelty of the lands here. Since The time of their ancestors' clans fought the Night's Watch fought everything and anything here worth value, food, clothing, weapons and anything else they could get their hands on were fought over for hundreds of generations, beyond measure, beyond count. But the winds of change were blowing, cold winds, winds of death, winds heralding the return of the White Walkers. Mance wasn't an idiot, he knew what would happen if the White Walkers came marching toward them. Now every wildling here, from young to old, warrior to mere caretaker for some minor task, would be slaughtered, killed, butchered without mercy, and when it was all over, the Night King would make them rise as an army of the undead to serve him in his quest known as a crusade against the realm of men, and they would win. With each new death a new servant of the Night King would rise to add to his army, like a plague or disease spreading out, attacking, infecting others. With each passing day, the size of the undead army would grow faster than it could be put down, and given Mance had well over 100,000 wildlings with him, the Night King would have more than enough to take the wall away from the Night's Watch if Mance himself didn't get there first. Fortunately for me, the Night King along with his followers and undead army have been moving slowly despite how close they are to us. Of course, given how they have lived for so long, I doubt they need to rush when planning against the realm. They can sit back and let men destroy themselves without even knowing it. Only makes the Night King's job that much easier, thought Mance, while looking at his own war table with crude pieces on it showing his army in comparison to the Night's Watch up on the wall. Mance, you are not going to believe this, said a scruffy, heavy, orange-colored bearded man with orange hair to match running into his tent and breathing heavily. What, Tormund asked Mance. To one Tormund Giantsbane, who had become one of his most loyal lieutenants. Someone from the other side of the wall is here to see you. He wears a mask with 3 fucking eyes. 3, answered Tormund with Mance frowning. 3 eyes, you say? And he had a staff in his one hand, asked Mance with Tormund nodding. He also appeared right out of fucking nowhere, scared everyone to the point of nearly shitting their pants. They thought he might be a White Walker or something allied with the crows. The man spoke about wanting to speak to you about our future, replied Tormund with Mance nodding. I know who it is, though I only know of him. I have never met the 3-eyed sage before now, replied Mance with Tormund looking uneasy. Can we trust him, asked Tormund with Mance laughing a bit, since trust here beyond the wall was a rare thing. Even now the various clans who came to support him were still shifting with tension. Hard to say. I heard stories about him. He fights for the side that is deemed worthy of his help, but just because the sage visits us to talk doesn't mean we are seen as being in the right. Still, the fact he wants to talk instead of killing us all before we can even draw a sword or an arrow says the man wants to be civil. Let's see what he has to say before this possibly goes bad, said Mance before he motioned for Tormund to bring the sage into the tent. Sure enough, the masked man with 3 eyes entered without hesitation or fear of being killed by those around him. Mance heard the stories about the sage and his abilities that defied all things. The maesters had long since explained stories of making duplicates of himself, becoming an apparition and vanishing in thin air without anyone obscuring their view of him. Doing it, and his skills with swords was a thing of legend too, meaning the man did not rely on his magic to kill people. No, the sage had no reason to fear Mance or his army. It was quite frankly the exact opposite. At this point, Mance Raider, the king beyond the wall. So many people making themselves kings these days. You can't imagine how troublesome I find it to see people from everywhere name themselves king, and suddenly everyone wants to help them sit on a throne, said Naruto with Mance smirking at him and gesturing for him to sit across from his seat. I'm surprised no one has made or declared you king, commented Mance, knowing this man's powers could damn well assure it happen. Don't want it and don't need it, especially with that damn iron throne. Just looking at it makes my ass hurt knowing how pointy that thing is when sitting on it. How anyone is yet to die from getting some kind of infection after cutting themselves on one of the more sharper points is beyond me, commented Naruto before sitting down, and noticed many of the wildlings outside who Mance trusted were now in the tent watching him. So what does the great sage of the 7 kingdoms want with me, with the free folk, asked Mance while Naruto looked at everyone in the room casually. I know what it is that's hunting you. I know how you were able to get so many warring clans in this army together to join you, remarked Naruto, with some of the wildlings reaching for weapons since they saw it as a threat or insult to Mance. Do you now enlighten me, offered Mance casually. The White Walkers, for one, they want your army, or rather they want to turn it into their undead army. They have been killing wildlings in small groups piece by piece so they would have enough to one day go after all of you and bolster their army needed to claim the wall from the Night's Watch, the same as you are planning to do right now as we speak, replied Naruto with Mance nodding while motioning the others in the room to stand down. I am, and if you are as smart as the stories say, you know why we want over the wall, said Mance with Naruto nodding. You want to live. You want everyone here to live and not be a part of the undead army. The White Walkers are making it as how you got so many to fight for you. It was either that or die fighting the White Walkers and becoming undead mindless servants in the aftermath of the battle, answered Naruto with Mance smiling, we want to get over the wall, but those damn crows won't let us. They prefer to keep us pinned down here and let the White Walkers have us, added Tormund angrily. I'm actually kind of sorry, the White Walkers were not meant to be this way, they were meant to be nature's to turn against man's more aggressive side, remarked Naruto with a sigh. What do you mean, asked Mance with Naruto looking him right in the eyes. It's partially my fault the White Walkers exist, answered Naruto with many of the wildlings now drawing weapons and looking extremely pissed off. You made them, demanded Tormund while looking like he wanted to stab Naruto in all three of his eyes. No, not directly, answered Naruto immediately, but you helped make them in some manner from what you were implying about them, remarked Mance with Naruto nodding. It was ages ago when man was recovering from a much darker time and era that ended with the near extinction of the human race. Wars leading up to that had become violent and nature was dying as a result of it. Plants were dying, animals were dying, the world itself was dying, and I was the only one who could stop it, so I did with as much strength and effort necessary that nearly killed me in the process. I was weak, so weak I stopped nature from dying, but I didn't have the strength to send nature itself into the motion of making things grow again, and time was of the essence, so I created those who could in my place while I slumbered in a deep mediation of sorts to further help regain what I had given back to the world, said Naruto with Mance and the others listening intently to his tale. The White Walkers, whispered Tormund with Naruto shaking his head. No, not them, children, or rather the children of the forest as they were called in those times, plant-like entities the size of children I created to help nature grow and protect it from all future threats, answered Naruto with Mance frowning in confusion. And what threats are those, asked Mance curiously. The threat from men, of course. Men nearly destroyed the world through wars, violence, and greed, and wanting more than they ever needed in life, never satisfied with what was theirs, and took from others even if it meant killing someone for such possessions. When I made the children of the forest, men were weak and posed no threat to nature, so they set about their tasks in helping nature grow, and for a time all was well, replied Naruto, with Mance narrowing his eyes. But something changed, did it? asked Mance suspiciously with Naruto nodding. The realm of men flourished shortly after nature did, one feeding on the other while it grew, and the two grew together almost as one and in perfect harmony, no less. But in time the strength of men and their ambition grew faster than nature. Men took more than they needed to, and it seemed the cycle would happen again, with nature being destroyed before it had a chance to truly heal itself. So my creations took it upon themselves to make a creation of their own, one to combat men and ensure nature continued to grow without resistance, answered Naruto with Mance nodding and understanding. The White Walkers were made by your creations, concluded Mance, since he was now beginning to put the pieces together. I gave them knowledge and means to do what was necessary. They were the ones who made the White Walkers and commanded them to go forth into the world, to combat the greedy desires of men, all in order to prevent them from taking things away from nature. In truth, the White Walkers were meant to keep men from going too far and growing too big in life, a method of control, if you will, replied Naruto, while Mance and the others were shocked by this. And where were you in all of this, asked one of Mance's other lieutenants, still in a meditative trance. I didn't come out of it until much later, when everything they did went to shit. The White Walkers spent so much time fighting men that they began to feel hatred toward men with each passing moment. It wasn't long before that hatred for men turned into a hatred for all things living. The White Walkers believe that because humans are a part of nature and alive, all things alive must die and be brought under their control to properly be used as they see fit. The children of the forest tried to stop them when it became known to them what the White Walkers had planned, but by that point their creations had become too powerful and too violent to defeat. By the time I came out of my meditation, the children of the forest were nearly defeated, and would have been if not for my timely intervention, answered Naruto with Mance looking him dead in the eyes. You defeated the White Walkers, but didn't end their existence. Why didn't you end the White Walkers when you had the chance, asked Mance, knowing there had to be some reason for the White Walkers not being wiped out by the sage. Because despite what they were and are, the White Walkers are a deterrent against the darkness and greed that lies within the souls of men, those who take what they should not, those who kill for what they don't have and can't stand, those who do. They are the evil that keeps an even greater evil within men at bay. And before you challenge that, I dare you to look me in the eye and tell me none of the free folk have evil in their hearts, said Naruto with Mance grimacing, since he knew quite a few different clans here had members that were not what you would call good people, and were only joining Mance to get over the wall to truly let out their violent side. So is that why you are here, to tell us the White Walkers can have us so long as they stay here on this side of the wall, demanded Tormund angrily. Of course not, I intend to help the vast majority of you lot get over the wall and live somewhere further south where it's much warmer, though given how winter is coming soon I wouldn't lose the fur-based clothing you are wearing right now anytime soon, said Naruto with Mance and the others looking shocked by this. The crows won't allow that, remarked Tormund, knowing the Night's Watch would hunt them down. No, they wouldn't under normal circumstances. They would sooner try to kill you than willingly let one of you make it over the wall unopposed. Fortunately, I have already spoken to their Lord Commander Jeor Mormont. He knows what I'm doing. He didn't like it from his reaction of drawing his sword against me to slice me in two, but the man understands why I'm doing it. Nonetheless, explained Naruto, with Mance looking him in the eyes as he talked about it. And where exactly do you intend to have us live? Asked Mance, knowing the location they would be heading toward would very well determine whether they should continue this discussion. Dragonstone and the Crownlands, answered Naruto, with Mance frowning. I've heard of it. It's an island, commented Mance, while Naruto shrugged. True, but it's no less filled with trees, animals, and a mountain, with a castle at the base. The castle itself needs a little work since the previous owner left it in semi-disrepair, but nothing you and the others here can't fix given enough time, replied Naruto, with Mance frowning. And the people living on the island of Dragonstone won't object to well over 100,000 free folk being on the island? Asked Mance curiously and suspiciously. Provided you treat them with respect, they will do the same to you. Truth be told, you would be a much better ruler of Dragonstone and the island over its previous lord. The last one went slightly crazy and wanted to burn people to appease a fire demon he was told was a god, answered Naruto, with Mance still not looking convinced. And the southern lords of the Seven Kingdoms, where do they stand on this? Asked Mance, with Naruto knowing the man wanted to cover all bases. They weren't happy about this or my plan. Many thought the White Walkers should just kill you and then destroy the undead army by reinforcing the wall with their men. I told them that was cruel, barbaric, dishonorable, and they wouldn't want such a thing to ever happen to them if the roles were reversed, so they agreed to let you live there, mainly due to it being an island. But it's not like it's a barren wasteland. It's actually a very nice place to live well once you spruce it up a bit. Plenty of room to grow, to live happily, and no fear of White Walkers coming to attack you in the dead of night, replied Naruto, with Mance looking around at his men for a second. We need time to discuss this amongst ourselves. We'll let you know when a decision has been reached, said Mance, with Naruto nodding. Take you time. I need to head over to Craster's Keep. The man has been doing horrible things there and has been allowed to get away with it because of his past assistance aimed against you. I'll be back by nightfall, said Naruto before he left the tent. What do you think? Should we take the offer? Asked Mance, with the others in the tent looking thoughtful. It could be a trap, lure us to a place where we can't escape and slaughter us without a chance to fight back, remarked Tormund, with Mance nodding. It might be a good deal. Lord Crow didn't seem to take too kindly to the sage's idea of having us be elsewhere but here beyond the wall, replied another wildling. Lieutenant, I know the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. He has a mean temper and meaner sword swing when provoked in anger. Chances are the man was quite angry with what the sage has planned, replied Mance, while thinking things over in his head. What of this island he mentioned where we could live, this Dragonstone? Have you ever been there? Mance asked Tormund, with Mance shaking his head. No, but I know of it. It's a large enough island for all of us to live in. Granted, we would still have to play by the rules these southern lords and even the king there set for us, said Mance, with Tormund looking angry. I don't want to spend my days kneeling to a southern king, remarked Tormund, with Mance seeing the others nodding. I don't want you to either, any of you, but I also want you and everyone who follows me to live and not have to worry about the fucking White Walkers coming at us at night with the intent to turn us into undead slaves. At least if we die in our new home, we stay dead and don't come back as the fucking slaves to those evil frosty cunts, said Mance, with those around him really thinking this over. Not to mention our new home would be occupied with current tenants, while there is apparently plenty of room for all of us. We couldn't do things the free folk way, said Tormund, knowing a good portion of those following Mance wouldn't like that one bit. We would have to change our ways if we agreed to this. There's no way we can still be the same free folk we are now if this deal is accepted, remarked one wildling in the tent. So change and live somewhere south of the wall, or refuse and die here only to be undead slaves to the White Walkers sooner or later, said Mance, with a sigh, knowing the free folk well and that their pride would make the idea of submitting in such a way to the rules of the Seven Kingdoms make them consider toughening it out here in the freezing cold. I don't want to fucking die and be undead, but I also don't want to change who I am and bend the knee for some fucking cunts in the south, said Tormund, with Mance thinking things over in his mind. We need to talk to the sage when he gets back. If his deal is not acceptable, we risk everything and take the wall from the crows, said Mance, while everyone nodded. Even if it means fighting this sage? Asked one of the wildlings. Hopefully it won't come down to that, remarked Mance, with a sigh following that little declaration. Craster's Keep. At the moment Craster was dead, slain by Naruto's hands. The man didn't see it coming. One moment he was eating some food one of his wives/daughters had brought him, and the next his sword pierced his chair, his back, and out his chest where his heart was located. All of the women in his sick, twisted incest centered harem screamed out in fright as the assassin responsible for the man's death pulled the blade out and Craster slumped forward dead. Ladies, your husband/father is dead as of this very moment. You are all free. I can get you over the wall to someplace safe, secure, warm, and be with those who will not judge you. Will you accept this offer or continue to live here in this dark, twisted place, said Naruto while the women looked at each other and then at him. You are not one of the Night's Watch. Who are you? Asked one of the older women in the group that Craster barely touched anymore unless he was desperate or drunk. I am the sage. I'm sure you have heard of me, if only in passing, from one rumor to the next, answered Naruto with some of the women nodding. Can you really get us out of here safely? Asked the same woman with Naruto nodding. I can, but I need your trust from all of you. This place is a dark cesspool in the world, and this man was one of its lowest forms of life sustaining, and I know I am asking a lot from each woman here, but the alternative of staying in this place waiting for the true darkness and evil laying in wait is even worse, said Naruto while the group of women in the house looked fearful. The White Walkers, they are coming, aren't they? Asked the older woman. Yes, I'm afraid they are coming. They plan to use the wildlings to bolster their army, and considering the wildlings have well over 100,000 in number up here beyond the wall, it's going to be a big army, said Naruto with the women looking even more fearful. Get us out of here, please, begged the woman in front of him. I will. In order for this to work, I just need to put a temporary seal marker on one of your hands to transfer you to the marker I have set up elsewhere beyond the wall. Form a line, single file. I need to do this one at a time, said Naruto while the women did as asked, and soon they all had seals on the back of their right hands. Where will this take us? Asked one of the younger women. To the southern part of the Seven Kingdoms known as the Reach. There you will be employed as handmaidens and servants in the service to House Tyrell. I spoke with one Elena Tyrell and she agreed to take you into her house. For such a position you will of course have to be cleaned up and instructed properly to do tasks asked of you on a daily basis, but nothing humiliating as it was here, answered Naruto with the women nodding, since in their minds anything was better than Craster and what he had them do for him. You did what the Night's Watch would not do. Thank you, replied the one woman who chose to be the leader of them. You are welcome, said Naruto before he activated the seal on their hands, and the group of women were instantly teleported to the Reach where they were expected by the loyal servants under Lady Elena's command. One problem down, a few more left to go. Essos Marine. Daenerys marched with her army toward the great city of Marine, an army of unsullied, mixed with those of the former slaves she once freed, who joined her to fight against the tyrants that put them in chains. Their new queen broke and gave them freedom to choose what they wanted to do in life. For the first time in their existence, these people who were once considered to be property by others now had a voice, a say in their own destiny, and to walk a path if they wanted. Naturally they chose to serve her as best they could. Servants, advisors, even some even joined the army and wished to fight for her and the other slaves she was moving to free as well. And here they were at the last major city in Essos, the last one which embraced slavery and oppressing those simply due to their birth by chaining and whipping repeatedly the low-born into submission simply because those born of high standing had the whips and could use them on others. Marine, the greatest of all the major cities of Essos, unlike Astapor or even Yunkai, this city trades all manner of slaves, using its port for ships leading out and into Slavers' Bay. Here you could build a fleet and sail for Westeros with your army, said Yura as he saw the towering pyramid of Marine getting bigger the more they traveled toward it. We aren't going to Westeros. Not yet, said Daenerys while looked to her left and saw the dead nailed body of a child slave nailed there to warn others not to question the might of the wise masters of the city. You have done much for Essos since being here, Khaleesi, but your time here, or even the influence of freeing the slaves, is not meant to be permanent, countered Yura in a knowing tone. It will last, Yura. I will make it last long after I am gone from here and this world. I will make an example of the wise masters of Marine as I have of Astapor and Yunkai. The way of enslavement is dying and will soon be dead when I am through with ruling over Essos, remarked Daenerys sternly while Naruto nodded slightly while riding beside her on horseback, in his usual fashion of sitting on the saddle over the traditional way. A firm hand is needed here, fair yet firm, loving yet strict when called upon, one that only a queen can produce, added Naruto while seeing the crucified slaves, and it made his blood boil inside. He had really been neglecting his duties and keeping the world in check, and all due to not wanting people to rely on him. It made Naruto realize that he had to balance his decisions on whether to act or not when situations came up. Perhaps, if he did, things would have been different with the Targaryens, maybe even the other issues regarding the North, the Wildlings, even the White Walkers. If he had just been decisive and not stayed back to see the realm of men unfold naturally, things might have been completely different. In any case, Naruto believed that now was the time to act. Now was the time to be more decisive in matters, to no longer merely provide advice and see if those hearing it would listen. It would soon become time to let the demon within his mind out of his cage. Part 2. The Sons of the Harpy moved their small army quickly through the Great Pyramid of Meereen. Late into the night, their secret benefactor had approached them a few weeks ago, a mysterious figure in the shadows who provided them money, weapons, and information on when the Unsullied would be patrolling certain areas more over others. At first they were a bit hesitant to trust this mystery man, especially since he didn't reveal himself from the shadows in which he resided ever, but their worry was removed when the figure produced the head of the Unsullied Commander Grey Worm and threw it on the meeting table. After that, their benefactor's loyalty was never questioned. The overall leadership of the Sons of the Harpy shifted from an overall group of remaining wise masters resistant to the Dragon Queen's rule to that of one man. He was dictating their actions well and was keeping their faction hidden until it was time to strike at the head of the dragon, sitting on a throne not meant for an invader from another continent. As they all made their way to the very bed chambers of Daenerys Targaryen to end her life, some of the members in the group noticed the lack of guards in the area. In fact, the closer they got to the top of the pyramid, it became clear that the guards patrolling were focused more on the lower half of the structure. Over the top, some smirked at the sheer arrogance of this woman who dared call herself a ruler and queen of Meereen. They had escaped the notice of the Unsullied patrolling the pyramid and had made it this far to where the guards were little to none with their weapons, namely knives and a few swords now drawn from the robes they wore. The large group of people looked at each other behind their gold harpy masks as one they nodded. This was to be the end of the Dragon Queen. They would storm and kill her and then mount this invader's body at the top of the pyramid for all to see while the corpse rotted in the hot sun. With any luck, the overall moral of the people would break. The wise masters would then reclaim the Unsullied and make Meereen the slave capital of Essos once more. Quickly opening the door, the small army that was the Sons of the Harpy had swarmed the room and prepared to end Daenerys Targaryen's life, only to find the bedroom was empty of anyone else except themselves. The room was lit, but their target was not in it, only a certain masked sage, with amusement showing in all three of his eyes. Looking for someone? She's not here, remarked Naruto, with the Sons of the Harpy backing away cautiously from him, whereas the Dragon Queen sorcerer demanded one of the Sons of the Harpy safe. Which is more than I can say for any of you right now, remarked Naruto calmly with a hint of amusement in his eyes. We will not be intimidated by you or your magic. We will end your queen, the invasion, and the tyranny you all bring with those three monsters, said the masked speaker for the Sons of the Harpy. Really difficult to do when all you have are rusty knives and swords, though I must admit, given your overall wealth, I was expecting more refined blades in your arsenal. I find it to be quite disappointing. You are so stingy with money you couldn't even buy a decent weapon to attack, said Naruto calmly. You know nothing, exclaimed the masked harpy, though inside he was panicking. Did this magician truly know of their identities? No, it wasn't possible. I know everything. I know who you are, what you do, and why you are doing this, said Naruto calmly before a wave of his hand caused the doors behind the small army of rich, spoiled, and clearly stupid people in front of him to be blocked from leaving. Well, most of them. There were still quite a few stranglers outside the room when he did that, but the Unsullied were already on their way per one of his shadow clones to let the army know when to strike. Those who were killed here in this room by him would soon be killed by the Unsullied. It was you were the one who gathered us together under your control, accused one of the Sons of the Harpy, while pointing a finger at Naruto. As for Naruto, he was shrugging, since there was no point in denying it. Soon the sound of fighting could be heard breaking out, and the death of the Sons of the Harpy members could be heard outside the room. Yes, I did. Oh, and the head of the commander leading the Unsullied. It wasn't him. I just make a false head that looked like him. You were so eager to kill the queen, but had no means to do it. No true leader among you, a group of angry, whiny, and overall lazy enslavers, wanting to go back to the way things were before, now enslaving people and making them do everything for you under the pretense you are the superior being. The only difference between you and the lower common folk is the amount of gold you have in your coffers. You have no right to enslave your fellow man simply because you have money, and they don't, replied Naruto firmly, as he sensed the men in this room were not happy, and clearly they did not agree with his statement. Money is everything. Money is power. Money buys food, clothing, wine, shelter, beds, and horse to fuck whenever we wish. The more we have, the more superior we are to others. It is the way of the world, stated one Sons of the Harpy member. Really? And what does this money do for you if it's all you have upon being thrown out into the desert of the Red Wastes? What does all that wealth get you if I were to throw you onto a super tiny boat in the middle of the ocean without food or fresh water? Money only works where it's supposed to work. But if you take away the need for money in an environment like now with me, what do you have in terms of power? Nothing. You have nothing, said Naruto firmly, while the Sons of the Harpy members were clearly angry from the way they kept adjusting their grip on their chosen weapons. We can still kill you. We have the numbers and the weapons needed to end your life, said one of the Sons of the Harpy members. It's quality, not quantity, remarked Naruto, before using a simple yet powerful wind jutsu on the group that sent them flying back against the doors and destroyed all their weapons in the process. With another wave of his hand, the doors opened for the army of Unsullied to enter for the purpose of seizing the men who dared try to kill their queen. Normally they would kill these enslavers, but Daenerys wanted most of them alive for questioning before she brought about final judgment. And while a few of the members were no doubt not here with the majority, Naruto had already set in motion the means to kill or capture them. You won't get away with this. We have powerful friends. They will not let this action go unpunished, protested one of the now unmasked sons of the Harpy. I know all of your friends. I know all who would supposedly fight for you in return for the vast wealth of gold you would give as payment. And you see, the thing about them is they fear my power more than they love the chance to take your gold. Besides, I can easily take your gold and give it to them to let Daenerys rule unopposed, so don't expect them to send an army anytime soon, commented Naruto with a smirk behind his mask while the group was restrained and hauled away by the Unsullied. The plan worked. Well done, commented Daenerys as she appeared from the door leading to a room next to her bed. Beside her was Ser Jorah Missandei and Grey Worm, with the latter currently dressed in his combat uniform, fully armed. In the event the Sons of the Harpy somehow get around Naruto to search for the queen, it was unlikely. But one doesn't become commander of the Unsullied and not be prepared for anything. They were desperate. They were so easy to trick. It's almost sad. These men wanted a quick way to bring back what they knew. When it came to running Meereen, they didn't even consider the possibility of their mysterious benefactor was in fact the enemy. This is the result of what happens when rich, wealthy, and lazy people lose their way of life without any other skills. They spent so much time letting their slaves do all the work, they forgot what it meant to do work themselves. As a result, when you take away the people they use for such labor, the wise masters begin to panic. As a result, the panic they feel forces them to do stupid things, explained Naruto, with Daenerys smiling. At this point, enslaving is all the wise masters know. Take it away, and they are just like us, only they cannot stand being just like us, added Grey Worm, with Naruto nodding. You are exactly right, my friend. These men have egos the size of the Great Pyramid, if not bigger, and thus feel their lives are better over those they rule. Take that away from them and they feel insecure and an intense hatred for the lower class, because now they are connected to it more. They can't stand being on the lower end of things. It attacks their beliefs, their culture, their pride, and even their very soul. It drives them to fight back against the change in their own stupid ways, said Naruto, while the masked sage, hopefully with the Sons of the Harpy now detained, my rule will go smoother without inference from the remnants of the old guard, remarked Daenerys thoughtfully. A few people here and there, I already have them marked for being arrested or killed if they resist. Besides, after all the positive changes done to the city, the people would be crazy to oppose your rule. Now the people are showing signs of improved health. The young are getting educated properly. Many of the former slaves have found employment as teachers and getting paid for their services. In the process, the vast wealth from the former wise masters who opposed you initially has been placed in the treasury instead, in your own pocket, which is a big thing with the common people. It immediately tells them you care about ruling over them, using such wealth to improve the city instead of using it only to enjoy your own guilty pleasures. You have the support of the people, and a queen needs that when ruling. A queen is only as powerful on a throne as the loyalty of subjects she rules over. Without them, a queen is just a woman sitting on a fancy chair with her kingdom being nothing but empty space, said Naruto, with Daenerys nodding. How are things in Westeros? asked Daenerys, suddenly. As good as can be right now. Peace has come to Westeros. Ned Stark still sits as regent, but as repeatedly stated, he will leave such a position when the proper ruler worthy of the seat comes forth. Rule over the 7 kingdoms on the Iron Throne. If you were to return now to become Queen of Westeros, the small council who would help guide you in ruling will consist of Lord Renly Baratheon, Master of Law Lord Varys, the Master of Whispers Lord Tyrion Lannister, the Master of Coin and Lord Davos Seaworth, the Master of Ships, answered Naruto, with Daenerys frowning. I'm not sure I am comfortable with a Baratheon and Lannister sitting among the small council, given one is the brother of the usurper and the other being a Lannister. After what the latter did, I'm sure you can understand my reluctance, replied Daenerys as she saw Naruto nodding in understanding. I do understand. Both House Baratheon and House Lannister have done horrible things to your house. No one will dispute such things, but those responsible for those crimes against your family have already paid the price for their actions. Jaime Lannister is now at the wall. His sister is dead. Robert Baratheon is dead. Stannis is dead. Tywin will be staying at Casterly Rock and has to attend to other affairs pertaining to the western regions. Tyrion is now the only child left he can acknowledge from this point on, and the new Master of Coin is doing rather well at his new station. He is keeping the kingdom well into the black financially and is well respected by the other members of the small council, all of whom are smart people and know their assigned duty when it comes to running the kingdom, said Naruto, with Daenerys nodding. Tell me, Naruto, when I am sitting on the Iron Throne, what will become of you? asked Daenerys curiously, while She stared out into the night sky. Me, I'll probably go home in the north, live in seclusion once more, knowing I left the 7 kingdoms of Westeros in good hands, strong hands, answered Naruto like it was the simplest answer in the world. Just like that, you could be a chief advisor. I could even make you hand of the king, or in my case the hand of the queen, offered Daenerys, with Naruto shaking his head, tempting to be sure. But that would sadly limit my overall freedom, your grace. I love my freedom too. Much if I became the hand or any other type of advisor, I would have to have any action I wish to take possibly challenged by royal authority, and while I am sure such a thing would never happen between us, there's always a chance. Besides, if I make all the suggestions for you, many would believe you are just a figurehead and are not the true authority sitting on the throne. Many would think I am the final authority, and I don't want that. When you do become queen of the 7 kingdoms, it will be without dispute and the same in regards to your authority. So in the end, I must say no to your very generous offer to become your hand. I will help you obtain the Iron Throne and the overall experience necessary to rule over the 7 kingdoms, but following that I will do no more, answered Naruto, with Daenerys smiling at him further despite his declining of the position. That is a shame. You would have made a great hand, remarked Daenerys. Perhaps, but I make a much better sage and one who must be loyal to the realm as a whole, not just to Westeros. The world is much larger than the 7 kingdoms, said Naruto, with Daenerys nodding and understanding. All the same, Naruto, my offer still stands in case you change your mind, said Daenerys, with Naruto nodding. I will keep it in mind, your grace. You never know, I just might take it. After all, always in motion the future is, said Naruto, before letting out a very strange laugh, and for some reason an image of a bizarre green impish creature with big pointy ears and a cane came to mind, though why they hadn't the faintest idea. He is a strange one, remarked Grey Worm after Naruto left the room. Perhaps, but I would rather have him on our side than against us, remarked Daenerys, knowing the man's skills could decimate her army. And there was the issue with her 3 dragons possibly submitting to him. Her 3 children had been surprisingly calm when around. The sage Yora had told her at one point, when she wasn't around, that Drogon, who was the alpha of the 3 dragons, had tried to eat the sage. As to why her oldest child would this, it was done in an act of showing his supreme dominance over all things and his other 2 siblings. It was bound to happen, from what Naruto had explained later, since some of the dragons from long ago tend to that, to show why they lead the pack. But before anything bad could happen, Naruto had quickly used those strange ethereal chains from his body to bind the dragon, without a hint of worry about being harmed by the giant dragon. As for Drogon, he was eventually pinned down completely by Naruto in front of the other 2 dragons, and the masked sage gave them a do not try it look that told them who was the dominant force here. Drogon, of course, had struggled against the chains and tried to blast the sage with fire to further show his power. Naruto had countered Drogon's show of strength with his own by unleashing his power over the area that Yora could only describe as truly terrifying, and even the dragons themselves seemed to agree. They knew that while Daenerys was indeed their mother, the sage was fair yet firm master and wouldn't tolerate any rowdiness that he felt would endanger the image Daenerys was portraying as queen. He also kept them on a strict diet of eating animals, lots of animals mind you, but it was better for them to eat other animals over people. Of course, there were some people who had been thrown to the dragons to eat, but they were all bad people, and some of them even belonged to the Sons of the Harpy as agents to spy on the queen. When caught and thrown at the feet of the dragons, they quickly pleaded for their lives, spilling all they knew about the Sons of the Harpy and hoping they would be spared being eaten by the 3 dragons. They were wrong to expect that much mercy from Naruto. The queen didn't know he had done this, Yora did, but the man kept silent on the issue, since Naruto had told him that even if they did show these men mercy, there was always a risk these agents would still spy on Daenerys or reveal where the dragons were residing to launch an attack on them. Naruto aside, the dragons were considered to be the major muscle backing Daenerys, and if they died or were crippled, it would be a serious blow. Besides, the people being eaten by the dragons had already done horrible things outside of supporting the Sons of the Harpy, so sparing them was moot in the blonde's mind. I will find a way to repay him for helping me this far. I don't know how or what to offer him that would be acceptable, but I will find a way, thought Daenerys, while wondering what she could offer the sage. Westeros King's Landing. So Gendry is finally ready to be legitimized as a Baratheon. It actually sounds like he is very nervous about it, remarked Ned from his chair in the office made for his position as Lord Regent. Of course Gendry is nervous. All his life people have looked down on him because of his status as a bastard. The boy earned his right to be a Baratheon, replied Naruto, who was sitting in his chair across from Ned with a desk filled with paperwork between them. I'm a bit surprised Renly doesn't move against this, given how this will make Gendry the head of House Baratheon now once legitimized, said Ned with concern in his voice. One of the things I wanted to happen before the legitimization happened was for both Gendry and Renly to meet each other, get to know each other. Renly sees a more refined version of his brother in Gendry, humble yet strong, and now with a proper education Gendry can Led House Baratheon in the Stormlands, while Renly can handle things here in King's Landing as the Master of Law, said Naruto, with Ned nodding. Since the Stark Lord Regent had seen Renly and Gendry on talking on many occasions. What does Renly feel about the other offspring Robert sired? As I recall, Gendry wants to take care of all of them, bring them into the house as legitimate members of House Baratheon, questioned Ned, with Naruto shrugging. I have to inspect each one of them to be sure, but I'm confident each bastard child sired by Robert are all indeed of his bloodline. If that is the case, what Gendry does with them is his business, but I think he will agree they should all go through the same or similar educational processes he did to one day become legitimized, answered Naruto, with Ned frowning in thought at the idea it could help set some form of precedent, a chance for illegitimate children to become a member of the family they were never a part of in the past, said Ned, though he also knew many lords and legitimate heirs wouldn't like it one bit, and some of these lords already had bastards of their own with no love for them at all. It is something to consider at the very least, offered Naruto, since it was something to look into for the future, possibly, admitted Ned. In any case, I have news from over the wall from my shadow clone I sent there to scout ahead regarding the White Walkers. Are not so friendly, freezing fuckers have begun to move against the wildlings. It won't be long before the more violent of the group left on that side of the wall become their undead servants, said Naruto, with Ned frowning at this news. This is troubling. Even with the vast majority of the wildlings you brought over the wall now residing within Dragonstone, those who remain beyond the wall will no doubt bolster the army of the enemy. The Night's Watch will have its work well ahead of them to repel this evil, remarked Ned, with Naruto nodding. They'll succeed. It will be harsh, brutal, and bloody on all counts, but they will succeed. Even if the White Walkers somehow get past them, they still have to deal with all the armies of Westeros, 3 dragons, and of course me, said Naruto confidently, with Ned nodding, since he recalled how Daenerys Targaryen in Essos had 3 dragons. Speaking of dragons, how long until Daenerys Targaryen returns to Westeros? From my understanding, she will be bringing with her 3 dragons, Jorah Mormont, and an army of Unsullied with a few Dothraki, questioned Ned, with Naruto nodding. Give her a few more years. Getting a fleet large enough to sail her army from Essos to Westeros will take as long, not to mention setting up a stable government in Meereen to stay in place long after she leaves Essos for here, said Naruto, with Ned nodding. And the White Walkers, when will they be ready for their march? Asked Ned, since he hoped Daenerys would return sooner, if only so her dragons could purge the world of the evil that was beyond the wall. From what I can gather, they won't be ready in that same amount of time due to their own slow speed in getting things done. White Walkers believe in moving in a slow yet terrifying way to instill fear in the hearts of their enemies. They don't believe in doing anything fast, hence why they have waited 1,000 years to make their move. Patience is a strength, but also a weakness in this case. If we can mobilize a necessary defense before they make their actual move, by the time they do make it, the wall will be fully manned, armed with the best weapons and latest siege equipment made available. The world will be ready for them. I can only imagine what would happen if I wasn't around to ensure all of this played out as it did, replied Naruto, with Ned nodding. Something tells me that I wouldn't be here right now, remarked Ned, with some form of amusement in his voice while smiling. Given what happened in the throne room with Joffrey when you tried to become Lord Regent in the first place, my thoughts exactly. In fact, I already know the events that would have transpired without my intervention into your life, replied Naruto, before he went into great detail surrounding the world of Westeros and what happened to it if his existence was not part of it. Needless to say, it made Ned frown deeply, with a hint of anger in his eyes at how things would have played out without Naruto around to change them. Ned himself would be dead. Jon would still be considered a bastard. Catelyn would still dislike Jon, and the boy would have gone to the wall when Ned traveled to King's Landing to become hand of the king. House Bolton would be alive and serve the North, but only until the War of the Five Kings presented an opportunity to betray Ned's eldest son Robb at the twins with House Frey at an important moment that would later be called the Red Wedding. Theon would have still betrayed House Stark and the North to his remaining family, and would have been sacked by the Ironborn with their surprise attack working. Renly instead of Stannis would be dead and conspiring with the Red Priestess from Essos for more power against House Lannister. Cersei and Littlefinger would still be alive and would have tried to continue in their manipulation of things from their powerful positions as queen and the master of coin. This would eventually cause other events to play out, with the end result weakening the realms to the point of near annihilation from the White Walkers when the time came for them to strike. In short, Naruto had single-handedly changed things for the better. You do this realm a great service, Naruto. You don't know how much I appreciate all you have done for me, my house, the North, and the realm of men. We all owe you a debt no one could ever hope to pay. I doubt even the Lannisters could succeed if they tried, said Ned humbly, with Naruto smiling behind his mask. I love the world, Ned. Always have loved it. Unfortunately, the people in it are another matter altogether. It's filled with greedy power-hungry people, and they treat this world like shit. They treat it as they treat each other. So long as those people are in the minority, I have no reason to turn my back on it. Remember, I didn't get involved in the world for so long because I wanted man to rise above such things, and wanted to see if humanity as a whole could rise above such corruptible darkness. From what I have seen, humanity has made progress, not as much as I had hoped to see, but it is there and it is enough for me, said Naruto, since he had seen Ned in action and those who followed him into some pretty dark battles during Robert's rebellion and the other times following it. Even if the reason behind Robert's rebellion was a lie which would have to stay that way for all time if people knew, Lyanna Stark went willingly with Prince Rhaegar Targaryen to Dorne and married the man in secret instead of being kidnapped like Robert. Had always believed it would reopen old wounds that would never close and bring about more problems for the Seven Kingdoms. Fortunately, those who knew the truth were few these days, and also knew that keeping it a secret was for the good of the realms of men. Can we count on Daenerys to contribute to the fight against the White Walkers when the time comes, asked Ned, with Naruto nodding without question. If there was one rare thing the White Walkers fear outside of Valyrian steel and dragon glass, it is fire from a dragon's mouth. I have also got a few special fire-based attacks of my own up my sleeve that can harm them. There's also one other fire-based attack I have in my arsenal, but I won't use it unless necessary, replied Naruto, with Ned frowning in confusion. Why, what's so dangerous about it, asked Ned, with Naruto involuntarily reaching up to touch his mask where the Sharingan I was located. Aside from causing me pain and making my one-eye bleed, the fire I would unleash is far superior to that of a dragon. It's so hot that it will burn for a whole week. Regardless of the cold weather, it will burn friend and foe alike if caught in my line of sight. Ned, it's a dark fire, one I never wished on my most hated enemies, despite having used on them all the same to ensure victory, whispered Naruto, while images of past enemies he had hated over the many years with a passion came to mind, and those he burned screamed out in agony when hit. Even now he still heard those screams from time to time. I see. Hopefully the use of such power will not be necessary on your part, remarked Ned, since he couldn't imagine anything surpassing the flames made from the mouths of dragons. Of course this was Naruto and his strange powers, so the Lord Regent wasn't about to doubt the sage's ability to unleash such a fire upon the world city of Meereen. Several years later, it is finally time, and I was just getting used to this place, remarked Daenerys while she looked over the city from her balcony. One last time. We normally do get used to places, people, and things when it's times to let them go or leave them behind, Khaleesi, remarked Jorah Mormont while seeing her looking down at the people below. She would no longer be ruling. Still, I will miss them, replied Daenerys sadly, and they will miss you, Khaleesi. The new Council of the Free Wise Men is in position to rule over Meereen, and a proper army to protect the city has been created thanks to the Unsullied providing instructors to all the recruits who joined. We can now leave when you are ready, said Jorah, with Daenerys nodding. The fleet we've built these last few years in Dragon's Bay is finally ready to sail off to Westeros, and I along with it. Do you think I will be welcome there regardless of my standing as queen, questioned Daenerys, with Jorah smiling. You are not your father, you are not someone consumed by madness as your brother had become and those who came before him through the lineage of your house. You are of sound mind and body, Khaleesi. You have ruled well and justly here in Essos. I have no doubt your actions have reached the lords and small folk alike. They would be fools not to welcome you home with open arms, answered Jorah, while Daenerys smiling. Thank you, Jorah, you have been a most loyal friend and commander. When I sit on the throne, I wish for you to be made hand of the queen, replied Daenerys, with Jorah's surprise showing. Before kneeling, I am honored, Khaleesi. I shall strive to be worthy of the position, said Jorah, with his future queen nodding as such. One of the first things I wish to happen upon claiming the Iron Throne is for the hidden tension between you and Ned Stark from your years as a slaver to be put to rest immediately. I am well aware of your past actions, leading you to serve me, shamed your house, made an enemy of House Stark, and forced you to flee Westeros in the process. I will not have my future hand serve me with such lingering things hanging over his head that they distract him from his duties. Do you understand me, Sir Jorah, said Daenerys, with Jorah nodding at what she wanted. She wanted him to make peace with Ned Stark, his own house, and the North as a whole, so nothing distracted the man from being the hand of the queen. I understand, Khaleesi. I have long wished to do these things. I have even written letters over the years to my house regarding my time serving you in the hopes of proving I am repentant for my past misdeeds, said Jorah, while Daenerys nodded, since he had asked for position from her first to do this. I never did ask, but did they reply back from your house, asked Daenerys curiously, since she never did inquire due to the personal nature behind Jorah's communication with his family. Yes, they did, Khaleesi. My father, Jorah Mormont, who was the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch at the Wall, is proud of me. He said I have redeemed myself and restored honor to the House of Mormont. My Aunt Meege said the same thing, and is waiting for the day I return to Westeros, no doubt wishing to hear the stories of my time here with you in Essos, replied Jorah, with Daenerys smiling further. I can imagine, no doubt they will wish to hear from your own mouth what it was like to serve a Targaryen, said Daenerys with Yora nodding. And I will have plenty of stories to share, was Yora's simple reply. All of which you will ensure puts me in a good light, remarked Daenerys in a teasing manner while Yora chuckled. That is the only light I intend to shine upon you, Khaleesi, answered Yora, since he had no intention of bad-mouthing his ruler anytime soon. She had ruled well over her subject since she first became the wife of Khal Drogo. Come, it's time to return to Westeros, commanded Daenerys while Yora bowed and began to follow her. Have you found a way to repay the sage for his years of loyal service, Khaleesi asked Yora offhandedly, since that was the one issue Daenerys couldn't seem to figure out. Perhaps I am unsure. I have one final position I can offer the sage. Whether he wishes to accept it is up to him, but I would rather wait to offer it to him when I am Queen of Westeros, replied Daenerys with Yora looking uneasy. And if he were to refuse what you offer, asked Yora with concern, since what Daenerys was possibly offering and the sage possibly rejecting it could have ramifications. I will hold nothing against him for it. I am not petty. Yora, the sage is governed by his own set of rules and principles. I understand that. He knows I understand that because the sage explained it to me long ago. I can only hope the man behind the mask accepts my offer and my reward when I eventually present it to him once I am Queen of Westeros, replied Daenerys calmly, not to insult the sage, but whatever it is you finally present him, if he rejects it I will be inclined to speak out and ultimately call him a fool, commented Yora, with Daenerys now looking at him with a serious look on her face. Please don't joke about that, Sir Yora. I would rather not have my future hand die so soon upon his service to the crown merely because of the actions of another, said Daenerys with Yora nodding with a small smile. Of course, Khaleesi, I would never do anything to endanger your rule, replied Yora before the two began walking toward the port where her fleet awaited its queen. Westeros King's Landing. Several months later, Ned Stark felt a sense of anxiety run through his body. He shouldn't, but it was hard not to feel it given who was coming into the port of King's Landing with a massive fleet of ships, an army of unsullied some Dothraki, and of course 3 dragons, not one not two but 3 dragons, all of which were big, huge. They had been seen flying through the air before the ships below them could even be seen. Ned was worried at first given these were dragons, but Naruto, being the ever calm and collective self, assured the Lord Regent there was no harm and the dragons wouldn't start killing people. Magnificent, aren't they, Lord Regent, asked Varys while seeing the 3 dragons for the first time and saw them flying around. They are indeed, and yet I feel fear like none I have ever felt before today, replied Ned while focusing on looking from the dragons to the ship docking in the harbor which was about to allow their mother to set foot in King's Landing. Calm yourself, Ned, there's no need to worry. The dragons will only harm you if they or their mother is threatened. Be polite, civil, and everything else under the eyes of the gods that makes you Ned Stark, commented Naruto, with Ned nodding. Is it wrong to feel fear, asked Ned with Naruto letting out a chuckle. Of course not, just don't let it control you or your actions, answered Naruto calmly, with Daenerys walking toward them and her loyal entourage right behind the woman. Lord Stark, Lord Varys, great sage, and other members of the small council, I have come to claim what is mine by blood and by right as a member of the royal blood from House Targaryen, said Daenerys in a regal authoritative voice. Welcome to King's Landing, your grace. Your entrance into the city will be told for years to come. Please follow me and the other members of the small council to the throne room so I can make this transition official. Your dragons will have to wait in the courtyard considering how big they are and won't fit in the Red Keep, said Ned while the dragons had perched themselves around them and were eyeing their mother's newly acquired acquaintances. Lead on, Lord Stark. I look forward to seeing the throne room my ancestors built, said Daenerys while she walked with Ned, the small council, Naruto, Yora, Missandei, and the disciplined army of the Unsullied. Your grace, I wish to ask one favor of you. I would deeply appreciate it, said Tyrion with Daenerys looking over and slightly down at the dwarf of the group. You are Tyrion of House Lannister. Your father is Tywin Lannister and your brother is Jaime Lannister, correct, commented Daenerys neutrally. Yes, on both counts, your grace, answered Tyrion in a neutral fashion since he didn't believe saying such a thing proudly would be good at this point. Your father betrayed mine during the rebellion. Your brother killed my father in the very room we will soon enter, remarked Daenerys with Tyrion looking uncomfortable. Indeed they did, but my brother had his reason for what he did. My father, well, I can't really excuse him of his actions, and I don't wish to defend him either, replied Tyrion with Daenerys nodding since she had been told by Naruto why Jaime killed her father that day. She didn't like it but understood at the time such an act saved the lives within the city. Yes, so I have been told before my arrival here. Now what is the favor you wish to ask of me, asked Daenerys calmly with Tyrion's mood lightening slightly. If it's not too much trouble, at a later time I would like to see all 3 of your dragons up close under your supervision. Of course, replied Tyrion with Daenerys raising an eyebrow at the request made by her master of coin. Any particular reason why, asked Daenerys, since she didn't want her children To be poisoned somehow by the actions of one of her small council members scheming against her, a rather personal one actually. When I was a younger lad and still a bit naive in the ways of the world, I was asked by one of my uncles what I wanted for my name day. So being the innocent young lad I was back in time, I asked for a dragon, just one, not even big dragon. I told him just a small one, so small I could hold him, or her, in my own tiny hands. Sadly, my father had decided to ruin my heart's desire by informing me how the dragons had all died out. I cried myself to sleep that night, all the while knowing I would never be able to see, touch, or speak to a dragon, to gaze upon them in awe and wonder. Even if I am eaten by one of them, I would not care. Just to see my heart's desire made reality would make me die a happy man, said Tyrion, with Daenerys looking surprised by this, and so did many of the others who made up the small council, since none of them knew this little piece of information. If you wish to see my dragons up close, I will permit it, Tyrion Lannister, out of respect for your honest words and the reason behind wanting to be so close to one. Treat them with the respect they deserve, and you have nothing to fear in terms of their wrath coming down upon you, replied Daenerys, with Tyrion smiling. I would be the biggest fool in all the world if I didn't treat such wonderful creatures with the utmost respect, your grace, said Tyrion, with everyone in the group thinking the exact same thing. The group eventually walked through the King's Landing directly to the Red Keep. As they made their way to the throne room, the people were surprised to see the banner of House Targaryen being shown, while the Unsullied marched behind their queen, even more so with the Lord Regent, the small council, and even the sage himself, all walking beside her. It wasn't long before the throne room was filled to the brim with nobles of the court and other high lords living within King's Landing, high lords and ladies of the Seven Kingdoms. As you may have seen or heard not that long ago, Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn of House Targaryen, returned here to Westeros. During her time away from Westeros, Daenerys has been busy learning to become a great ruler and queen for the time when she would return here to become ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. Under my supervision and guidance over the years, I have ensured she holds none of the madness her father Aerys II possessed in his later years. She is not her father in that regard. She is strong, honorable, and has gained the necessary experience needed to rule over Westeros from her time ruling over the city of Meereen in Essos. While in Essos, she marched with an army of Unsullied and proceeded to free the slaves there from tyranny and oppression of the wise masters there, one city after the other, freeing the oppressed, killing the cruel enslavers, ruled over Meereen with love, and gained the respect of the people during her time there, said Naruto, since he felt the story needed to be told before this became official, since there would be some who would not believe Daenerys worthy of sitting on the Iron Throne. As many of you know, I have been Lord Regent for quite some time, a title entrusted to me by my sworn brother, the late King Robert Baratheon. On his deathbed, he cast aside his hatred for the Targaryens and asked me to become Lord Regent and protector of the realms as well as the Seven Kingdoms. My duty was to last until a king or queen came forward and was worthy of the Iron Throne. Until now, no such person was worthy of the Iron Throne, but after much time, patience, and with the help of the sage, I am honored to declare one such person worthy of ruling over the Seven Kingdoms. This person is Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn. She had the right that is not only in her blood, but the right to rule through her experiences while away in Essos. As such, I hereby step down as Lord Regent of the Seven Kingdoms, and declare that Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn, is now the new queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Long may she reign, declared Ned Stark throughout the room. Long may she reign, long may she reign, long may she reign, long may she reign. As the people chanted, Daenerys slowly walked up the steps to the Iron Throne. Its mere presence made her almost hesitate to sit on it. Almost she had seen it in the House of the Undying in a vision, surrounded by snow and darkness and something else lingering in the shadows. It came before Daenerys, back when she was in Carthwile, searching for her dragons. She didn't know what the something else was, but it was not friendly. Still, this was not that moment in time. This was the moment where she sat on the throne. Her family forged its right to rule over all, a center of power where the one ruling on the Iron Throne had absolute authority. On her words alone, a man's life could be ruined or it could be brought to new heights. She could easily denounce a loyal knight and strip his house of all its worth, or she could make a poor man own more land than he knew what to do with it. But she was not that type of person. She wasn't a tyrant. She was a queen with duties and responsibilities now on a level beyond anything before. Today, ruling over the city of Meereen was one thing, but now having to rule over Seven Kingdoms was in itself a whole new level of responsibility. But she was ready. She had friends, trusted friends, not to mention her new advisors, from Varys the Master of Whispers to Lord Davos Seaworth the Master of Ships, could be trusted. Even the two houses she should by some right destroy simply on some principle for what they did to her house during the rebellion. But she wouldn't. Only a petty tyrant does something like that. She was a queen of the Seven Kingdoms, its rightful ruler, not just by blood but by experience. And in one fluid motion, Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn of House Targaryen, sat down gracefully Upon the Iron Throne its new queen now ready to rule with a high septon placing the crown upon her head in the name of the seven. Thank you Lord Stark for ruling in my stead as Lord Regent during my time away. I am pleased to see the city is in such fine shape and the people look happy from what I saw in passing when coming here to the Red Keep. You deserve praise for your efforts, replied Daenerys with Ned bowing slightly. Your kind words are enough your grace, replied Ned while Daenerys nodding. No doubt being here in King's Landing has been trying to you and your family in the north as they wish for your return home to them. As such I will not delay such an event from happening as you are no longer Lord Regent. You are once more tasked with being the Warden of the North and the ruler of Winterfell once again, said Daenerys with Ned nodding and bowing at her words. Yes, though with respect your grace I would ask you to declare my son Robb Stark the new Warden of the North. Seeing how ruling the North is a young man's game, I wish to take on a more advisory-based position to help provide my son with wisdom to rule. He has done much since my time away from the north and it is only fair he deserves to be what I have always known him to be in life, said Ned with Daenerys thinking it over in her mind before nodding. Agreed. I have heard about your son during my time in Essos. He did well for himself in fighting the injustice that plagued Westeros. From what I have heard, in any case I will grant your request, but on the condition that before you return to Winterfell to advise your son you stay in King's Landing long enough to advise Ser Jorah on how to be a good hand of the Queen. Your time serving Robert Baratheon while short was time spent trying to save the crown from ruining. You will share these experiences as Hand of the King and similar things with Ser Jorah in the coming months, commanded Daenerys with Ned nodding, since it was a small price to pay before seeing his family in the north again. Plus Naruto told him it was time to bury the hatchet with Ser Jorah regarding the man's crime of promoting slavery all those years ago. I will give the order my full attention, your grace. Your new hand will serve you well before I leave for the north, replied Ned before he glanced at Jorah, who was being presented the pendant symbolizing he was now Hand of the Queen as the new Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I know it is my duty and responsibility to rule over everyone with a fair yet firm hand, not too soft to the point where everyone is in the belief I am weak, yet not too hard that I become a tyrant. At the same time I also know the Seven Kingdoms will never become great simply through my right to rule on the throne. As such I am in need of a husband, someone strong and fierce yet loyal and smart in ways that rival if not surpass my own abilities to govern the kingdom. For a long time I did not believe anyone outside of my late husband Khal Drogo would be suited for such a task. However, in the time that I have traveled throughout Essos gathering an army, freed city after city of slavery in those lands, one such worthy individual appeared, one worthy of being my husband and ruling beside me and protecting the realms of men, not just from outside threats but also internal ones. Great sage, if you would step out toward the center of the room where everyone can see you, said Daenerys with Naruto now nodding and did as she asked. She's not going to ask me what I think, she is going to ask me right, thought Naruto to himself, while Daenerys smiled warmly at him. Great sage, by the name of Naruto of House Uzumaki, you have done many things in the name of old gods, the new. In the realms of men you have protected the innocent, you punished the guilty, and you taught each of us something we never knew until we were in your presence. Me especially, I learned how to rule because of you, how to care about the people who I wish to rule over and not simply demand the respect of the people, but earned it through deeds. You showed me it takes more than blood to claim the right of the Iron Throne, but courage and fortitude to act when necessary. When we were in Essos you turned down many offers and rewards for your time in my service, one of them being the Hand of the Queen. Until now there was no other reward or offer I could think of that could be given to someone of your status, but in truth it is the only one that is truly the best reward of all. So I ask of you, great sage, will you grant me the honor and the privilege to marry the man who not only helped me win the Iron Throne but also won my heart as well? Will you be my king and I your queen, said Daenerys with many gasped and whispering loudly at what she just offered. The masked man, holy crap, she just asked me to marry her. Could I do such a thing? Should I? If I say no it makes me look like a jerk. Even if I give a valid reason some will just say how stupid I was to say no in the first place, not to mention she may take my rejection personally and be a woman scorned. I would rather not have to fight her 3 dragons and unsullied after she orders them to destroy me out of anger for saying still would it hurt to say yes. When was the last time I knew happiness in my home back up in the north? Yeah, but to a point, and it's not like I would marry a complete stranger like most arranged married couples do these days. I also have the experience to rule since I have been a ANBU commander, Jounin sensei and Hokage during my ninja career. Would being with someone again really be so bad? Besides, Daenerys is not some snooty stuck-up spoiled woman of royalty like Cersei was one alive, plus it would burn Eros and mean good knowing I became a king. The old perv is probably up in heaven now grumbling on about it too, and how unfair that it never happened to him, thought Naruto before he focused back on the woman sitting on the Iron Throne. Do you accept my offer, great sage? Asked Daenerys, with Naruto sighing inside before he made up his mind, and his posture went rigid all the while slowly moved his hand toward his mask, with many waiting and holding their breaths at what his answer would be to the new queen. Not to mention the man never took off his mask, and only a select handful of people in this room had ever seen his face. Queen Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn of the noble house Targaryen, I Naruto of House Uzumaki, the great sage of Westeros, Essos, and the realms of men, hereby accept your hand in marriage. I would be honored to be your husband, and your king, just as I would be honored if you would be my wife. And my queen, replied Naruto after he removed his mask to reveal his handsome face to the world, and making quite a few ladies in the room blush in the process. Daenerys herself was also among those who did. I can almost see why he was keeping his face hidden all this time. So many women all throughout the Seven Kingdoms would be throwing themselves at his feet wanting to get into his bed, thought Daenerys while seeing Naruto smile at her. Indeed, Naruto's face was sharp, handsome, and the whisker marks he had since his birth gave him a strong warrior look instead of the cute look he had as a child. In this day and age, such marks were considered blessed or cursed markings made by an animal, and showed this person was touched by the spirits of the ancient world. The time has come to be a man of the people once more, and to do it without a mask, to hide behind a shame. Really now I can't keep people guessing when they wonder what my facial reaction is behind the mask, thought Naruto while putting the mask away and looking at the other people in the room. Still, Naruto had a feeling things were going to get better. The wall 2 years later, it was cold, colder than it had ever been in the north in years, decades, centuries. In fact, any record of a cold on this part of the wall was either lost, destroyed, or it never happened at all. If there was such a record prior to now, it was during a time when a great darkness loomed over the Seven Kingdoms. At a time when the White Walkers had existed for the single purpose of wiping out all things alive and breathing like they were. Now the White Walkers were on the march with a purpose, a desire, a hunger that had grown and festered within them for the last 1,000 years, and they weren't alone either. They had an army with them. For 1,000 years they planned, plotted, and prepared their army of the undead wildlings, men of the Night's Watch. Young and old men, women, and children were among their ranks. Flesh decaying and falling off at times, bones rotting and freezing from the cold were seen to those alive who gazed at the bodies. But the army of undead wasn't enough. No, the White Walkers had planned to use more. The undead were strong, no question, but the White Walkers knew there were things in the realms of men with the power to stop them, and the undead army they commanded, the wall itself, held mystical properties that prevented the White Walkers from crossing over to venture south, but it also repelled the undead army they commanded. These cold, ruthless monsters needed more, and had spent the last 1,000 years making sure they had it, namely in the form of giant ice monsters they had created using their powers. Giant ice spiders, snakes, and even dragons made of the ice element now moved with the undead army toward the wall. After 1,000 years of planning, plotting, and scheming to destroy the human race along with all things alive, they were finally ready to carry out their mission, or rather they would have carried it out if not for a small problem. Well, not exactly small, it was actually a huge problem. And no, it wasn't the wall or the magic behind it. No, the problem in question was the army around the wall ready to fight them. And it wasn't just members of the Night's Watch either. This army consisted of humans from all over the Seven Kingdoms, all covered in thick furs to protect them from frostbite, all of them armed with swords, spears, arrows, and any other weapon they could mass produce. For this moment, some of those among the army had Valyrian steel swords or daggers. It was revealed when looking through the vast archives by one Sam Tarley of Castle Black in connection to the White Walkers that they could be hurt by such weapons. They could also be hurt by a rare, strange item known as dragon glass. Sadly, dragon glass was rare to the point where many assumed it no longer existed, and if it did exist, it was beyond the wall where the White Walkers and their undead army resided. But those fighting the White Walkers had the next best thing: powerful siege weapons ready to bombard the enemy forces, and 3 actual dragons with the ability to shoot fire from their mouths and burn whoever or whatever stood in their way. Add into the fact the sage, and now king of 7 kingdoms, was standing beside his wife on top of the wall looking down at the approaching force. Didn't help the White Walkers much in regards to their plans. If anything, the Night King felt something it did not feel for the last 1,000 years: fear of losing, dying, being obliterated on the spot. It had lived during the last time the sage had fought his kind. They had been in greater number back in those days, instead of just a handful here now, but the sage had reduced their numbers until only the Night King remained among the original from 1,000 years ago, hence why he was made the Night King over the others due to being oldest and wisest of the White Walkers. Here shall we begin, my dear? Asked Naruto With Daenerys smiling and nodding yes, let's show these creatures what it means to mess with us, replied Daenerys before she was helped onto Drogon and took to the air with all 3 of her children White Walkers. I never thought I would live to see one, remarked Ned Stark with ice in hand. Nor did I, Lord Stark, added Jeor Mormont with his own sword in hand and looked at the army before them. Just imagine how vast this army would be if I hadn't taken those wildlings away from here when I did, said Naruto with Ned and Jeor nodding. Ready the catapults, commanded Jeor, knowing the ice monsters would be the main target of their weapons. Prepare fire arrows, commanded Ned, since the only way to take down the undead was to burn them all down and thin out the herd. Everything that gets by me destroy without hesitation. They will ignore me for the most part. This army wants to get up the wall by any means necessary. The more numbers crash into it to make an undead ladder up the wall, the far greater chance they will succeed, said Naruto with what was once Madara's and now his own gunby sword in hand, before leaped off the wall to the ground below and made a very nice loud intimidating crash in the process. Standing up straight, Naruto saw his wife was currently flying above the army of whites and her dragons burning the army below them. Of course it wasn't going to be easy, as the ice dragons the White Walkers created could fly too, and move to engage the real things in battle, moving quickly. Naruto cut through the undead charging for the wall and the ice monsters moving with them. Many of the undead commanded by the Night King were mentally commanded to move around the sage and to focus on the wall in order to take it from those at the top. Naruto's response to this was to use his Shinra Tensei on one giant ice spider with the power behind it obliterated creature from existence, the ice shards, hitting many of the undead behind it with the broken body becoming projectiles. Not done, Naruto unleashed his chakra chains from his body, piercing one undead body after another, whipping them around violently and spraying chunks of body parts all over the place. Right above Naruto, the 3 dragons plus his wife were currently doing battle with the ice dragons and winning due to the fact these fake ones couldn't breathe fire. They had to get in close range to do damage, but the 3 children of his wife were well trained for this moment and showed a great deal of teamwork against the much larger number of enemies in the air. Add to the fact her dragons could shoot fire gave them a much needed long-range advantage, and used it well under the command of their mother, slicing through another couple hundred whites. Naruto distinctly heard the command by those on the wall to open fire on the enemy trying to reach it, the whispery sound of fire arrows being launched and noticeable one of boulders from siege equipment firing on the large ice monsters. Not even looking back, Naruto knew the men on top of the wall were doing their job well and would keep the undead army from making past them. You have come a long way to die, old one, remarked the Night King while standing in front of Naruto now with his own sword in hand. Funny talk coming from you given how you are 1,000 years old, remarked Naruto with the Night King narrowing his eyes at him. But you are older, you know what humans are capable of doing if left alone. It was why we were created, to curb their ambitions, to keep their desires in check, to keep them from consuming the world, yet you stand by them despite all of this. Why do you side with them, questioned the Night King while his commanders surrounded them both. Because not all of them are like that. Your purpose was corrupted by the hatred oozing from those you once fought. In time you hated them just as much as they hated each other and wanted to kill them. Simply due to the intense amount of hatred generated in your presence, you saw the darkness of humanity when fighting them, and it spread upon you like a plague and poisoned your hearts and minds. Now all you can do is hate, all you can do is destroy, and not just the human race. You are trying to destroy everything, all life, all of nature. Your hatred has expanded beyond just them, replied Naruto while he saw the Night King frown. Humans are a part of nature, therefore all nature must die too, for allowing them to live and grow instead of creating a means to destroy them, replied the Night King as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And when there is nothing left to kill, ruling over the undead for all eternity seems a bit boring to me, said Naruto with the Night King frowning in anger and confusion. Apparently they didn't think that far ahead regarding the aftermath of completing their mission. We will find a way. If we can be given life, so can we create new life of our own. We are darkness. In winter we are eternal, replied the Night King. After a moment, no, you are not. Your time has come to an end. Creating you as a deterrent was mistake on part by my creations, even if you were a necessity at the time. Now you are no longer needed. Your purpose is archaic. The world and the realms of men have no further use for you, replied Naruto simply while the Night King now had a look of fury on him. Die, declared the Night King before his commanders advanced on Naruto. You first, whispered Naruto before he moved in a blur none of his enemies could see. The on that came at his right was the first to fall. A palm covered in thick chakra turned the commander into broken shards of ice. Not stopping, Naruto spun around his gunby sword, slicing the head off a second, and like the first one it too shattered into ice. A third one was swinging his sword, the blonde, but it was in slow motion to Naruto's eyes. He bent his body at an angle, the White Walker's blade missing him by a good margin, and left the target wide open to a chakra-enhanced kick to the face and like the other shattered glass was all that remained of him. You think this world will be better off without us? Who will keep the humans in line from growing too greedy? One day in the future they will find a means to kill or even cripple your ability to stop them. Who will be around to crush them back underfoot if not us? Questioned the Night King at the sight of his army behind Naruto being repelled by the enemy. The ice dragons were destroyed by the woman riding one of the 3 dragons. What you say is true. Maybe humans will destroy each other, maybe they will get too powerful and greedy, and maybe nature will finally say enough is enough and create a means to kill off humans. But you know what, it won't be now or anytime soon. While I live there will be peace in this world, and I intend to make it last for as long as possible, said Naruto while the Night King snarled and gathered energy into his hand. I will freeze you here for all eternity, while watching my forces kill everyone and add them to my army, exclaimed the Night King with Naruto smirking at him. I will see your threat to freeze me forever and raise you with burning your ass with fire from the darkest pits of hell. Amaterasu countered Naruto with his Sharingan, bleeding in front of the Night King, which was the White Walker's only warning or indication that something big was about to happen, and it did happen in the form of black fire being shot at him. Sadly for the Night King, he did not die quickly like the others. No, he did not shatter into pieces of ice like his commanders. No, those were the second-generation version of White Walkers. True, they were meant to command, but also made to follow him. Unlike himself and the first generation spawned by their own creators, the second generation crumbled once hit by Valyrian steel, dragon glass, and even supernatural fire. But the first generation weren't like that. They were made to live, to last, to continue existing like humans would, but without the sinful desires humanity possessed and unleashed on the world. No, this black fire that hit the Night King melted his body like what a fire does when melting ice when under intense heat, but unlike what an intense fire does to ice in terms of melting it quickly, the Night King found his body melting slowly, painfully slow. The various chemical properties that made up the White Walker's body powers and overall being were fire resistant, even more so when focused enough to cancel out the fire in front of him, and the Night King could channel his powers to negate it. But this was not normal fire, this was not even dragon fire, this was a dark fire so hot it could not be put out by supernatural means like what the Night King could do when he wished. No, his powers were negated against this fire. Even as the Night King screamed out in rage and pain from being killed slowly melted away, the White Walker refused to die so soon. It was given a purpose, a mission to destroy the realms of men, and this all-consuming directive, which was powered by this point by his hatred for humanity as a whole, would be completed. Naruto watched the White Walker resist the black flames of Amaterasu, but it was all pointless. The moment the dark fire touched the Night King, the creature was dead and was merely being finished off in a slow, agonizing pace. Did it deserve it? Most likely yes. The White Walkers took dead people and made them into undead servants to kill more humans and expand the undead army further like a deadly plague, which ironically enough needed life to create death, or rather consume life to create death before jumping to another body to kill, and the only true way to kill plague was to burn it along with the body it inhabited. You will suffer for this. The peace your heart desires with them will not last forever, exclaimed the Night King while shrieking out in agony at being burned alive. Perhaps, but you will not live to see that happen, remarked Naruto, before summoning a Rasengan into his hand and thrust it into the White Walker's burning body, causing the body to break into hundreds of burning pieces into snowy ground at Naruto's feet. When this happened, the undead whites along with the giant ice monsters immediately stopped rampaging against the wall and instead went after each other above Naruto in the sky. Daenerys had finished off the last ice dragon and was seeing the once massive army of the undead that remained turning on itself, without a master to command them, deciding to speed up the process of their demise. The beautiful Dragon Queen of the Seven Kingdoms ordered her dragons to burn the whites and the ice monsters with their fire. What her dragons didn't burn, Naruto quickly destroyed with his own skills, smashing the ice monsters and killing whites that were not hit by the dragon's fire. You did well, your graces, said Ned with Naruto and Daenerys smiling. That's putting it lightly, Ned, though no one here should sell themselves short. Without everyone here to provide support, the whites and the ice monster would have taken over the wall. Even with the power within wall keeping them back, it doesn't kill them, and as you saw earlier from those giant ice spiders trying to move up in a certain way on the wall, those creatures provides a crude yet very effective ladder for the undead to climb, replied Naruto, knowing he and Daenerys could only do so much against the enemy. That they did, ghastly creatures, the lot of them. Fortunately we had the means and the numbers to repel them properly, said Gior. Mormont, while he looked down from the wall to see the broken ice pieces surrounding the base of the wall. Does this mean we don't have to serve on the wall anymore? Asked one of the newer members of Night's Watch. No, the place beyond the wall is a prison, a living prison meant to hold living people. It was always meant to be one to contain not only wildlings but White Walkers too. The difference between the two is the White Walkers didn't have the means to cross the water. Wildlings occasionally do it by scaling the wall at various blind spots or making boats in an attempt to sail around the wall while risk getting hit by floating glaciers in the area. The water is so cold you would die within 15 minutes, so the option for wildlings to try such a method is slim, answered Naruto while knowing he had to repopulate the trees to make living beyond the wall livable. I thought all the wildlings were either the whites we killed or living in Dragonstone, questioned Ned, with Naruto nodding yes on both counts, but there will always be those who will act in a cruel, barbaric, and uncivilized manner, with the wall being too good a punishment for them. The harshest punishment you can give people like that is life on the other side of the wall, where it is the coldest and cruelest place to live out your days. The Night's Watch will be needed to ensure such people don't escape their prison and kill those who try to escape, replied Naruto, knowing the best way to punish criminals was to make them live a hellish life of their own making. Despite the end of the White Walkers, Naruto knew how people would still cause harm and do evil things to others long after this day. The large landmass area beyond the wall would be a fitting place for them to suffer and die. The Night's Watch would ensure they did not return to civil society anytime soon. I agree with my husband. The Night's Watch will still have purpose long after today is over, Lord Commander. I expect everyone who has joined or about to join to know that, immediately commanded Daenerys while on Drogon after the big dragon landed on top of the wall with his two siblings. I will, your grace, said Gior while Naruto smiled at his wife before hopping on Drogon's body behind her. We will leave things in your capable hands, Lord Stark. Lord Commander Mormont, for now I insist you be merry, knowing a great darkness has been lifted from the world, and while winter has indeed come, so is true peace to the Seven Kingdoms, said Naruto with a smile on his face before Drogon took flight at the command of Daenerys, with the other two dragons taking to the air as well. You have a way with words, my love, remarked Daenerys, with Naruto smirking. It's a gift, my love. I am a people person after all, commented Naruto while Daenerys laughed. It seems like only yesterday I was a little girl struggling to survive in this world, and you were a masked sage hiding in seclusion, remarked Daenerys while looking back at her husband. Yeah, it's strange even to me how the world works its own magic on us. Still, I'm glad the Game of Thrones people have been playing in regards to the Seven Kingdoms has come to an end. No more politics, no more pointless death, replied Naruto while he held on to his wife and felt a sense of happiness inside, as being their marriage had been a surprise to everyone no more than himself. Some thought he had helped Daenerys simply to earn the right to sit on the Iron Throne as king, but that theory was shot down immediately, since many knew of his powers and didn't have to go to such lengths to become king of the Seven Kingdoms. Naruto could have been king at any time, since even before the fall of the Targaryens still there were some skeptical of him, and Naruto was fine with that despite his future wife's dislike of such things aimed at him. Another issue that popped up was one Robin Stone, the bastard child of the late Peter Baelish. The whiny brat had been dragged kicking and screaming to the wall, all the time whining about how he didn't want to go and his mommy would make them pay for this, never realizing his mother was dead until long after being thrown into the ground at the snow-covered feet of Gior Mormont. The men from the Vale who dropped him off at the wall were more quite happy to be rid of him. The brat whined when he was a future lord of the Vale, and he whined even more after being brought down to bastardized status for not being Jon Arryn's son. They only tolerated the brat back in the Vale because of his clearly insane mother, and the fact she was the wife of the late Jon Arryn, with him being Jon's son on an official level. Before the truth came out now that the boy was no longer a future lord of the Vale, his power gone, the Knights of the Vale were happy to throw Robin out onto the harsh, cold, cruel path that was real life, and what better place to learn how to walk the harsh, cold, cruel path of life than the wall as a member of the Night's Watch. Needless to say, the boy's time at the wall was one of the shortest in history, and it did not end well for him. The boy had crossed paths with some of the more unsavory and more dishonorable members of the Night's Watch. They were not friendly or welcome to Robin in the slightest, and these individuals made this known to the newly named Stone. They pretended to be his friends for the first hour, but it was only to trick the dim-witted and clearly spoiled child. They tricked Robin and took all the stuff he had with him and leave the Stone to himself. When Robin complained to the Lord Commander, Gior Mormont told the boy he wasn't going to coddle him and to watch his ass while at the wall unless he wanted it violated by one of the more vile members forced to become a member of the Night's Watch. But the real abuse that came was mostly by members of the Night's Watch beating him up on his first day of doing his duty of manning the stables. They did this when no one was looking, or if they did it didn't really care, since the brat had whined from the time of his arrival to the conversation with the Lord Commander to Make matters even worse, on the second day some of the crueler men had taken the boy out into the forest area a few miles from Castle Black, ripped almost all of Robin's clothes off his body and threw him into the cold freezing snow in the dead of night when it would be at its coldest, all the while being mocked by them for living as a bastard yet faking his status and acting like a high lord. Some of the men got in a few punches and kicks, leaving the bruised boy with a bloody lip and swollen right eye before they rode back to Castle Black. Needless to say, the boy froze to death sometime that very night. While crying over his whole situation, was he missed? No. Was he mourned? No. No one missed or mourned Robin Stone, the whiny bastard child of the Vale who breastfed from his mother for nearly a decade of his short life. As for Jaime and Lancel Lannister, both men decided to stick together, since most days, unless a Lannister has a shit ton of gold in his possession to bribe people the world as a whole, would constantly be out for Lannister blood, since neither Jaime nor Lancel had any gold or wealth, due to it being one of the many things one must part with when taking the oath at the wall. The two men stayed together. After all, if a Lannister can't trust another Lannister, much less a closely related cousin of a Lannister, who can you trust? But that was neither here nor there. The point being, the two made sure they each had the other one's back, and had fought off quite a few angry people who hated and blamed the Lannisters for their problems. So far it worked, and despite the hostility the wall provided, Jaime Lannister actually found himself enjoying life on the wall. He was free. Obligations, rules of nobility he felt bound him in chains, and his witty tongue mixed with humor helped win over most of the men on the wall. Not all, but most of them. As for Tyrion, the master of coin lived up to title on a legendary scale, using his brain, which was clearly superior to most. Tyrion Lannister was able to make the coffers of the kingdom overflow with gold, silver and jewels not seen since the days before the Mad King went well mad. Careful spending, planning for the future and making sound investments. Once a proper investigation was done on what he planned to invest in for the good of the kingdom was done naturally, he ran into a few bumps along the way, as some of the various places were not doing things in a way that you would call it legal. Fortunately, that is what his bodyguard Bronn was. For in terms of making the people who tried to swindle or trick people like Tyrion out of the kingdom's gold think twice before doing it, not that many had the opportunity to think twice or get a second chance, since Bronn occasionally killed one or two for their hinted threats, attempted bribes and so on and so forth to get away with it. In any case, thanks to Tyrion's genius mind, the Seven Kingdoms was thriving financially, and Naruto, along with Daenerys, made sure everyone knew it. The youngest son of Tywin Lannister had also become a father after marrying his lover Shae, after eventually getting the blessing of Old Lion and the backing of the crown. While Tywin may have disapproved of Shae at first, given her past profession and clearly being a foreigner, Naruto had pointed out the two deeply loved each other, and it wasn't like Shae was some evil witch. Not to mention it created some much needed diversity in the Lannister blood. After the whole issue with Jaime and Cersei, something Tywin had to reluctantly agree with, but he came around since Shae had been faithful to Tyrion since they were together under the Old Lion's very nose. Granted, Tywin was fighting in a war at the time, but his spies within Lannisport should have caught on to his son being with the woman. In the end, Tywin knew deep down this was for the best, and it would help to counteract what his twin children had done in the past. Speaking of his two remaining grandchildren, Tywin was pleased to hear about how his granddaughter had truly fallen in love with Prince Dorian's son and future ruler of Dorne. Considering the still questionable parentage of the girl, since she looked much like her mother, Myrcella was happy. Dorne did not frown upon what she may truly be in terms of a child born of incest between siblings. Dorne had its own traditions, not exactly approved of by the Seven, but it was because of their open-mindedness that they didn't reject the girl. As a result, Myrcella found herself being truly happy with her time in Dorne and the young man who would one day become her husband very soon. Young Tommen was also doing well, even more with Tyrion being his legal guardian and helping the young Lannister with his educational studies. When prompted, it would not be long before Tommen's education would reach the point where he'd be taken into the Citadel to one day become a maester there, before being assigned to a castle to help its lord run it. The boy did miss his parents despite knowing the truth. Fortunately, Jaime had been allowed to visit King's Landing on occasion to gather new recruits and paid his son a visit to hear about his life. Lancel got to do the same in visiting his father when at Casterly Rock or Lannisport for the same reason, which helped House Lannister cope with two of its most prominent members being part of the Night's Watch, time healing all wounds and all that. Back to Naruto, he agreed to marry Daenerys and become the new king of the Seven Kingdoms to help protect the people within it. This would also allow him to still keep his freedom he had as a sage and able to enforce his position as an authority on a far more official level, a chance for our future children to grow up kind yet strong, remarked Daenerys, with Naruto continuing to smile at her lovingly. And there was another major responsibility Naruto would one day have to face in the near future, being a father. He had been one several times before now. His track record had been bad at first with his children he had with Hinata all those years ago, but he had improved somewhat. Sure, there were times when Naruto had been a crappy father, but he made up for his screw-ups over time when they mattered most. In the end, Naruto had been good to all his children, well, with his one remaining son trapped in the roots of a tree beyond the wall for all eternity said otherwise. But to be fair, his son had ruined a chance for everlasting peace, and all out of spite. And it wasn't like Naruto was abusive to any of his children and had actually planned to do more fatherly based things with his last remaining son when the peace came about. Though now that time was over, his three-eyed raven for a son would forever be trapped in the tree for all time. But that was neither here in the present nor there in the future. He had a new future, one with a woman who he had come to love these past few years, and one day soon a child or children of their own. Naruto could almost hardly wait